This is the skyline of an American city that tonight welcomes the Canadian Football League. The view is from the top of Memorial Stadium towards downtown Baltimore. Just beyond the city center is Chesapeake Bay, connected to the harbor. A couple of blocks from the water is Camden Yards, home to the Orioles. But tonight, the hottest ticket in Baltimore gained you admittance to Memorial Stadium, where the Orioles used to play. Now a CFL team does. It looks like Baltimore is all set for the return of professional football. Once as I mentioned a moment ago, two of the principals in the league's expansion to Baltimore, team owner Jim Spiros and league commissioner Larry Smith. And boy, don't those horses look lively. Those are two city slickers who had better hope the horses cooperate.
And rush in from Marshall.
So then if you go along with the theatrics, football is back in Baltimore. So let's talk about the game between Baltimore and the Calgary Stampeders. And to describe the proceedings from a great vantage point in an impressively redecorated Memorial Stadium, here are Don Whitman and James Curry.
Thank you, Scott. Hi, everybody. James, the Baltimore team off to a good start last week. The Calgary Stampeders, the team that dominated the CFL in the early going last year, winning 10 in a row, facing the prospect, unless they win tonight, of going home for their home opener next Saturday, 0-2.
Well, head coach Wally Bono's first loss in the month of July, Don, and in desperate need of a victory. It's hard to think about that with the Calgary Stampeders, but I think we're going to see a different Stampeder than what played last week at Taylor Field.
Well, Wally Bono basically has the same team that finished the season last year. 27 of his players are returnees. However, he had to make some changes defensively.
Well, only 4 starters changed defensively, and you lost 2 cornerbacks and 2 defensive linemen, but 3 of them were on the roster last year, and only Kenny Walker at the weak side end is the only new player really on defense.
Offensively, everything, of course, revolves around Doug Flutie, and Doug Flutie hopes to carry this team to a championship that he was unable to do so at home last year. He is delighted to have back in the lineup Alan Pitts, who missed a good portion of the season last year with an injury.
Well, Doug Flutie has had a couple days to sit back and look at the numbers of Matt Dunnigan and Ken Austin, and he's really excited to get on the field here tonight in Baltimore, where he was born. He spent the first 6 years of his life here, and to have Alan Pitts back in the lineup is going to be a big plus for him.
Well, he was looking forward to this return to the city where he was born, and if Doug Flutie has that confident air about him, you can look for some good numbers being posted tonight. Alan Pitts had 9 receptions in the season-opening loss last week to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But last week we saw Tracy Ham and Baltimore run a no-huddle offense. I wouldn't be surprised if Doug Flutie decides to go to a lot of no-huddle tonight as well.
Well, you have 2 teams with that capability, and I would not be surprised tonight, Don, if we saw both teams come out with 6 receivers, because a lot of players on Baltimore's side is very familiar with this Calgary offense and defense, so Tracy Ham is going to have an advantage on his side tonight, possibly.
Both quarterbacks are capable of scoring a lot of points and putting numbers on the board. Scott?
Okay, Don, as we approach kickoff between Baltimore and Calgary at Memorial Stadium, we want you to meet one of the latest CFL converts. Tom Matte had 12 years at running back for the Baltimore Colts in the Johnny Unitas era. We caution that he is a minority owner in this Baltimore CFL franchise, so that may have a great deal to do with what he has to say about the Canadian Football League. But go ahead and make your statement on the return of pro ball to your city.
Well, the first thing is that football is back in Baltimore, and that's the most important thing. We are basically what I call Baltimore is a football town. We got a great baseball team here, but these fans really wanted football back here, and Jim Spiros made sure we got it back.
Tom, this looks like a first-class operation you got here. There are about 40,000 fans in attendance tonight. Can it be this way for the CFL and other American cities?
I think we are the leader in setting the pace for the rest of the cities in the United States right now. And I really feel that Baltimore is going to be that example that has to be set, that other cities know that the CFL can survive and is a great football game.
Okay, Tom, thank you for your time. Enjoy the game tonight.
Thank you very much.
Well, there are 6 hours of football tonight on the CFL on CBC. We've got a doubleheader for you, and no waiting in between this game and one later tonight in Las Vegas, where the Posse make their home opener against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And Mark Lee is standing by for us, literally and figuratively, a world away. Mark?
Thanks, Scott. Indeed, Canadian football spans America today from the eastern seaboard to the U.S. Southwest. We're in Las Vegas, the air-conditioned gambling oasis nestled in the Nevada desert. You're looking at Sam Boyd Stadium, refitted now with a Canadian-sized football field and home to an expansion team that is drawing rave reviews. The unbeaten Posse are hot, and so is Las Vegas. And it's not just the sizzle in the heart of the Strip, the White Tigers of Siegfried and Roy, the Circus Maximus of Caesars. It's the heat. This city has been baking in a heat wave for a month now, in which temperatures have exceeded 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pushing 40 Celsius. It's one thing to be in a climate-controlled casino. It's another to be playing pro football.
Quarterback Tom Burgess is back in Saskatchewan colors. He's fresh from a thrilling last-ditch upset of the Stampeders last week. Posse coach Ron Meyer is proving a quick study in Canadian rules football. He's fashioned an unbeaten expansion team with the endurance of a camel in parched conditions, one of the big reasons why they're favored to beat the Rough Riders tonight.
Well, I don't know. I'm more worried about the wind conditions in the stadium having a ill effect on the ball. I mean, I'm more worried about that. I can't really control the heat or the wind, but I think that when we were out there practicing yesterday in that stadium, the wind was sort of swirling around, and it wasn't a consistent wind like we get in Canada. So I think if there's any one weather condition or something that I would be worried about right now, would be the swirling of the wind.
Well, the desert heat obviously favors the team that's going to be in condition. We've obviously worked in this. Our team is more acclimatized. It's a quick game, but I think that's a real trademark of any Canadian football league team because of the 37 players. It's a fast-paced game. I really marvel at the athletes that participate.
And 3 hours to kick off. It's currently 108 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 43 Celsius. I don't know how the players are going to do it, but it's hot enough for me to break the CBC dress code. The sports jacket is gone, and Scott, the sleeves could be next.
Mark, the message seems pretty clear for anybody in Baltimore complaining about the heat. You could tell us a thing or two about temperatures. How do the Saskatchewan Roughriders plan to try and handle the heat tonight in Las Vegas?
Well, Ray Yock told me this morning the team has actually been preparing for this game since the beginning of training camp. The players have been encouraged to drink plenty of fluids, and they've actually come here equipped with 4 IV bags, solutions for emergency cases in case players get dehydrated.
And tell me, Mark, how much would you pay right now for a cold shower?
Hey, I do fine to have an umbrella, let alone a cold shower. It's really hot here. In fact, we sent our thermometers out to the playing surface itself. Now, while the air temperature is about 108 Fahrenheit, right on the surface of the artificial turf here at Sam Boyd Stadium, it's about 142 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that converts on the Celsius scale. All I know is it's going to be a torture test out there today when the Posse play their home opener against the Saskatchewan Roughriders about 3 hours from now, right after your game between the Stampeders and the CFLers.
Okay, Mark, and we will send you all our viewers to Las Vegas as soon as we've completed proceedings here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. They've just completed the national anthems. But, you know, amidst all the hoopla of the Baltimore home opener, we should not forget one very important thing, and that is the opposition here tonight is the Calgary Stampeders, installed as 3-to-1 favorites to win the Grey Cup. If Baltimore is a model expansion franchise, then Calgary certainly is a model established CFL franchise. And the Stampeders are led by quarterback Doug Flutie. The former Heisman Trophy winning quarterback was born in the Baltimore area. He entertained the local media at yesterday's pregame press conference. He was in great demand for interviews and front page news in the local papers today. And earlier, we had a moment with the Calgary quarterback. Doug, you're most closely associated with the New England area. I'm not sure many people know you were born here in Baltimore, and you have some fond and vivid memories of Memorial Stadium.
I really do. I was born here, lived here only for 5 or 6 years, but I was a true Oriole fan all my life and Colt fan. And I guess my most vivid memory is sitting in the left field bleachers down there during batting practice. Thurman Munson hits a home run, and I dive in with a group of guys to get the ball. I rip it out, but I drop it. It rolls down about 4 rows, and my 4-year-old little brother, Darren, sitting there and picks up the ball.
I guess in a way, then, you're realizing a lifelong dream playing at Memorial Stadium tonight. But that aside, the Stampeders have work to do. You cannot afford to start the season 0-2.
No question about it. BC's 2-0, and the competition in the West is going to be stiff. We're 0-1 right now, a place that we're not used to being, and we need a win. We need a win badly.
Doug, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Doug Flutie's family is in from the Boston area to watch him play tonight. He's got about 70 friends and relatives here at Memorial Stadium. He would like nothing better than to open up the Calgary offense and show the CFL at its wide open best. And so once again, here are Don Whitman and James Curry.
Well, Scott, the fans had a taste of wide open CFL football in the preseason as Baltimore defeated Winnipeg 45-43 in overtime. And the Baltimore team got off to a successful start in the CFL this year, winning the first game of the year in Toronto by a score of 28-20. The next night, the Calgary Stampeders lost to Saskatchewan 22-21. Tracy Ham, the starting quarterback for Baltimore, and Wally Buono will go with Doug Flutie, of course. Steve Taylor is the backup. Doug Flutie, like his Baltimore counterparts, will likely show us a lot of a no-huddle offense in tonight's game. Baltimore won the toss. Don Matthews opted to defer to the second half, and as a result, Calgary will be kicking off. Mike Pringle and an ex-member of the Stampeders, Eddie Britton, who was dropped by the team just prior to the first game of the season, are back to receive. Mark McLaughlin getting set to kick off, and the first CFL regular season game in Baltimore is underway. Britton takes the ball at the 15-yard line. Britton tried to get outside, and Doug Kraft came up to make the tackle. A kickoff of 60 yards, a return of 14 for Eddie Britton. He signed a contract on the 11th of July with Baltimore. Tracy Ham, the quarterback that Don Matthews wanted the moment he was appointed coach of this CFL entry, and he will lead the attack as he did last week against Toronto. One change offensively. Pringle moves in as the running back. And with the injury to B.K. Williams, Britton moves into a receiving position, and this is Pringle, the ball carrier, and Pringle breaks it off tackle and takes it up to about the 29, brought down there by Matt Finlay. Well, Dinesh led the attack and led the way for Pringle, opened a pretty good hole for him.
One of the reasons Pringle was inserted into the lineup tonight, he was Sacramento's leading rusher last year, and he came over in the trade prior to the season. We're getting a hurry-up offense right away here from Baltimore. They feel the heat is going to hinder Calgary tonight.
Both teams are confident that they can use the heat to their advantage. They both plan on running this no-huddle offense, and Tracy Ham looks to see what defensive alignment Calgary is in, and he gives the ball again to Pringle, and Pringle, who picked up a first down on his opening carry, has about 10 more before being brought down by Will Johnson. This is the way Calgary will line up defensively. Kenny Walker, the new addition up front. Zizakovic is also a starter up front. The linebackers are the same. Kraft moves from one side to the other. Kenny Watson, no longer a member of the Calgary secondary. He now plays for Baltimore. Pringle tries again, this time up the middle. He's stopped by Shreko Zizakovic.
Marvin Pope, the middle linebacker, also getting his nose in there on that play. This Calgary defense is going to be tested early by this Baltimore huge offensive line. They go about 310 across the front, and they feel that they can push around the smaller Calgary defensive front. But that's what you want to do when you get a chance to get in the trenches on a hot, muggy night like this, is try to slow down that fierce defensive front.
First and 10, the ball is at the 51 of Baltimore. Dumps it off to Tui Piloto, and he's got some room down the sidelines. He takes it to the 35 of Calgary. Gerald Vaughn came across to take him down, but not before he had picked up 24 yards. Tui Piloto had an impressive debut last week against Toronto.
Tui Piloto is a solid fullback, rookie out of BYU, sifting out into that right flat, and Tracy Ham had him as a safety valve and found him open in the flat.
Pretty solid, 5'11", 215 pounds. The handoff to Pringle. Pringle, it appears, is going to get a lot of work in this football game if Calgary stays in the same defensive alignment. Matt Finlay came up to make the tackle.
Right now, Don, Baltimore's feeling very confident about their running game, coming with a counter trade coming from strong to weak, pulling the left tackle, Pordanish, around the corner. Pringle limited to a 3-yard gain on that play, though.
4 carries already for Pringle for 24 yards.
You can see already as we get a close shot of the players how they're huffing from this humidity out here in Baltimore.
Second and 6 again. Tracy Ham calling the play at the line of scrimmage to Walter Wilson, and he'll be close to a first down as he gets to the Calgary 25-yard line. Marvin Pope and Matt Finley came over to make the tackle.
Well, they ran that play several times last week in Toronto. The slip screen coming to Walter Williams. That time he allowed 2 receivers to come out in front of him and slide inside. And you see Big Daddy Marvin Pope sliding over from his middle linebacker position to knock him down. They're going to measure here for the first down.
I wonder what condition Marvin Pope might be in. He reported to training camp at 265 pounds. Well, a little on the heavy side.
He was a little heavy, and head coach Wally Buono was not pleased with his middle linebacker. He had a long conversation back during the training camp with Big Daddy, told him that he's going to have to improve his attitude and his conditioning. He took it upon himself to go out with Coach Wally Buono every day, who's an avid runner every day after practice. Marvin, yesterday I was talking to Wally, has his weight down to 246 pounds. Marvin can play at that weight, and last week he had 2 interceptions to go along with it.
Maybe you and I should go out jogging with Wally.
No, you can go out. I'll supervise from the car.
3rd and inches for Baltimore from the I formation. Tracy Ham checks off. Tracy Ham will keep and get the first down inside the 24-yard line. Everywhere we have gone for the last couple of days in Baltimore, the people are talking football. They are very aware of this new CFL franchise. As a matter of fact, down in the Inner Harbor today, bunting decorating many of the light standards with the Baltimore crest and the team inscription on it.
Well, they're welcoming football back here in Baltimore, Don. When we flew in, we were flying in from Minneapolis on a flight, and the 2 people sitting in front of us turned around and talked to us about the game. That's just how aware they are, not just here in Baltimore, but across the USA.
Tui Piloto taken out of bounds by Pope. He'll have a gain of about 4 yards. Tracy Ham, so far in the football game, doing pretty much as he wants to against this Calgary defense.
Well, Tracy's primarily, he's going to look 85% of the time to the right side of the formation. And we get a shot here of Marvin Pope, the middle linebacker. You can see by losing that weight how even his flow is across the field. He's able to catch the fullback, Tui Piloto, before he can gain much yardage.
2nd and 6, dumped off to Tui Piloto. He's taken down by Gerald Vaughn at the 8-yard line.
Tracy Ham has been true to his tendencies thus far. Once again, looking out to the right side of the formation. The fullback they're going to have to account for. And Tui Piloto is not an ordinary CFL fullback. He has a lot of speed coming out of the backfield. And last week we saw in Toronto where he caught the 4 passes and had some nice games on the play down.
Raymond Biggs comes into the ball game, and Matt Finley goes out for Calgary. It's 1st and goal from the 7-yard line for Baltimore. Penalty flag in the play as Pringle tries to go wide. Pringle broke the initial tackle, then is taken out of bounds by Greg Knox, the safety.
Number 27, Mike Pringle on the carry. We do have a flag.
But there was a penalty flag in the play. The referee is George Black. 2 of the officials in tonight's game are Americans.
Well, Mike Pringle's getting his work early in this game, and that's going to be a plus for Don Matthews' 2-back rotation system. Sheldon Canley and Mike Pringle. Pringle running off tackle to the right side, running through Wayman Briggs, the outside linebacker, before being driven out.
You don't want to have your defensive unit on the field too long in this heat and humidity because they are doing the chasing.
Well, it's down under 8 minutes.
Offside on the defense, number 3. First down.
In the first quarter already. Tracy Ham, I mean, you have to admire what he has done with this play drive. He has mixed run and pass very well, and he has this defense for Calgary off balance at the moment.
1st and goal from the 3.5. The offside call against Kraft. Here's Pringle to the goal line, but not in.
Alondra Johnson and Marvin Pope plugging up the hole along with Doug Kraft. Calgary's defense is going to have to dig in right here and make the stand. I mean, if Baltimore can drive down the field in a controlled drive like they've done, Don, it's going to be very hard for Calgary to stop them the rest of the evening. We get Mike Pringle going off the right side of the formation here. You see Pope and Johnson filling up the hole along with Kenny Walker, the rookie. Right now, big play for Baltimore.
This drive started on the Baltimore 29-yard line. It's 2nd and goal from the 1. Movement at the line of scrimmage, and it appeared as though it was O'Neal Glenn who may have moved prior to the ball being snapped. It looked as though he fired out prematurely, and if that's the case, it will take it back to the 6.
We'll get a shot of it here from our truck. We'll see the right guard, O'Neal Glenn, just a little antsy. You get those old linemen, and they're not accustomed to running in the CFL, and all of a sudden you'll get a shot here. You'll see him. He's going down. You know it's going to be a dive play right over the middle. Got a little overzealous, and now they're back at the 6-yard line.
Tracy Ham, when you saw him down in the goal line, was trying to get the crowd to be quiet as he was calling out the signals. Now Tracy Ham is going to try and run. Instead decides to dump it off, and it was batted down, I believe, by Marvin Pope.
Marvin Pope has had a marvelous first series of plays right here. He has been all over the field from sideline to sideline, stopping runs. That time getting out, containing Tracy Ham, not allowing him to turn up because Tracy had the run pass option, and able to get up in the air vertically and bat that one away at the last moment. We see Big Daddy here on the flow covering Mike Pringle, leaving the back, coming up on Tracy, going vertical and batting it down.
Pretty good movement for a man of his size. And now Donald Igwebike, who was good on 4 of 5 last week, including a 49-yarder against Toronto, will attempt a 13-yard field goal. He has yet to miss from inside 34 yards in his college or professional career. And Baltimore is first on the board at Memorial Stadium.
Welcome back to Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. There are a lot of legends around this ballpark, and one of the less serious ones involves Orioles manager Earl Weaver. Managed the team from 68 to 82 and again in 86, and every year that he did, out here in left field, he planted tomatoes. Actually, it was a contest that he and groundskeeper Pat Santarone used to hold to see who could grow the biggest and juiciest tomatoes, and because Santarone had the touch, he won annually. Weaver, of course, ever the gentleman, used to accuse Santarone of putting pesticide on his tomato patch. Don?
That would have been an interesting contest. Of course, Earl Weaver had time to tend that tomato patch. He was ejected from quite a few baseball games here at Memorial Stadium.
Well, I think one of the reasons why he was ejected because he wanted to go down and have a tomato salad while the game was going on.
Coleman and Smith are back to receive the kickoff. Igwebike kicks it high for Coleman. Coleman starts out from the 12-yard line. Some blocking forms down the right side, and then just as quickly is cut off by Malcolm Goodwin, a 23-yard run back.
Malcolm, one of 2 twins on the Baltimore team. He and his brother, the top specialty team players last week in Toronto. They finished 1 and 2, and Malcolm, that time a linebacker out of Iowa State. You could see him just flying down with reckless abandon, making the play.
Doug Flutie, last week against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, completed 21 of 31. He threw 2 touchdown passes, had 1 interception, and was sacked 4 times. And he is going to operate with 6 receivers from a shotgun formation. And Flutie is going to throw deep for Sapunjas. He's got it at the 51 of Baltimore, but it will probably be called back by a holding violation.
That's what you're going to get when you're in that position on the field. A great play called by Doug Flutie, though, to bring the 6-pack in early while Baltimore has their linebacker package in the game. You got Alvin Walton.
Number 60. First down repeated.
Bruce Covington, the culprit on the call, but Alvin Walton and Tracy Gravely playing linebacker. Big defensive backs, but they cannot run with players like Dave Sapunjas, Pee Wee Smith, Will Moore, Alan Pitts. Those players will run past them all night long.
Strange for Covington to be called for holding because he has had a minimum of holding violations during his career. Another penalty flag as Sapunjas makes his 2nd catch, but this one could also be negated by a penalty infraction.
Brought down by number 50, Ernest Fields. Flag on the play.
This is the way Calgary lines up offensively. Jamie Crysdale, a starter at right guard. Pitts back in the lineup. Zur has replaced Andy McVeigh. Tony Stewart hurt last week against Saskatchewan and at the tailback position. He took over from Kevan Jenkins.
Well, Calgary has quickly dug themselves in a hole here with back-to-back penalties. Going to cost themselves 20 yards here to start of the game. 1st and 30. Doug Flutie can pick it up, but it's a very tough position for him to start this game with.
6 receivers for Calgary. Tony Stewart checking with Flutie, checking on the call, and he gets the ball. And Stewart takes it back out to the 23. So he gets back about 9 of the yards that the Stampeders had been penalized. Ernest Fields and Matt Goodwin came over to make the tackle on Stewart. He had a slight hamstring problem last week against Saskatchewan, forcing him out of the game, and there was some concern during the week whether or not he would be ready for this game against Baltimore.
Well, we've seen both twins early, Matt and Malcolm, make tackles here in this first series.
2nd and 21. Flutie throwing to the sidelines, and he threw that one out of bounds. Carl Anthony was doing a good job over on the far side of the field defending against Brian Wiggins, and really Flutie had no alternative but to throw it out of bounds.
O.J. Brigance with the relentless pressure. The free agent linebacker coming over from the BC Lions in the offseason. That time he knows Doug Flutie very well. He ran Flutie all the way back inside the 5-yard line. He has the speed to stay with the Doug Flutie, and you see as he gets the pass off, he takes him to the turf unkindly.
Stan Petrie is the lone man back for this 3rd down punt by Tony Martino. Petrie was a cut of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, picked up by Baltimore, and Petrie takes this kick back at his own 35. Dodges a couple of tackles, penalty flag in the play, and he's taken out of bounds by Blair Zur. But there was a penalty flag back in the vicinity of the 39-yard line.
Going to get an illegal block in the back, and that's going to cost Baltimore 15 yards here, but an excellent start to the first quarter.
6:31 is the time remaining in the opening quarter, with Baltimore ahead by 3.
Huge crowd on hand. Stadium, at least huge in relation to CFL crowds so far this season, 40,000. They're enjoying every moment so far of the CFLers 3-0 lead over Calgary. Jim Sparrows, the owner of the Baltimore CFLers, with us earlier this week. Jim, it was on the verge of bringing the 1996 game to Baltimore. Is it that Baltimore is a game it hadn't heard of until earlier this year?
Absolutely. And this is an example of what we can do here in Baltimore, and we're hoping to get the Grey Cup here in '96. Yes, we are.
You expect you could sell out, make money for the league?
Oh, absolutely. I think it would be the best thing that could happen to the league at this point in time.
Jim, you were on with us last week during our telecast in Toronto, so I want to tell you this. You make one more live appearance with us on the CFL on CBC, and you qualify for co-host status. How's that sit with you?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Jim. Enjoy the rest of the game. Don?
Well, he has done a marvelous job with the renovations he was responsible for here at Memorial Stadium, basically designed for baseball. And we took a tour through the upper deck, and although you're a long way from the field, you really have a great view of the playing field here at Memorial Stadium, despite the fact you're in the corners of the end zone. Tracy Ham's in trouble. Tried to dump it off, and he underthrew the intended receiver, Walter Wilson.
Ham's pass intended for Walter Wilson.
He was getting pressure from Marvin Pope.
Marvin Pope has been all over the field here. Kenny Walker flushed Tracy Ham out of the pocket with an inside move from his left end position, and Marvin Pope in that angle of pursuit able to come around and track him down to the sideline. You see Will Johnson here working on Pordanis, the left offensive tackle, getting that big paw up on him, holding him out.
Way over the head of Walter Wilson, and it's 2 and out for Baltimore. Quite a contrast to their first offensive series when they put together 4 first downs and controlled the football for over 6 minutes.
Well, they came out running the ball, and I don't think that Calgary was suspecting them to come out trying to establish a running game right off the back. They felt that Tracy would want to throw the ball, and when they did force him to throw the ball, they were able to contain him, and now Calgary should get the ball back in pretty good field position after this punt by Miller.
Pee Wee Smith and Marvin Coleman are back for the 3rd down punt by Josh Miller. Good pressure up the middle, but Miller gets it away. Pee Wee Smith goes back to the 25-yard line. And Don Matthews, who has coached against Pee Wee Smith in the past, certainly aware of his punt return abilities. He was able to return 2 against Edmonton back on September 6th, 1991. Right now, though, Wally Buono is hoping this man can get the Calgary offense rolling.
Well, Doug Flutie's coming out, and Calgary has a new look this year, Don. Last year they darned the black stripes on their helmet. This year they're going without the stripes, you know, coming out with something different, and hopefully they can have a better year. That's what they're looking for, even though they're 0-1 to start the season. Hopefully hoping to get off to a better start in this game.
The last team in the CFL to open at home next Saturday against Winnipeg. Here comes Tony Stewart, and Stewart gets to the outside for a first down. Surprisingly, the success both teams, noted for their passing skills, have had moving the football is along the ground.
Well, you know, you look at the running game thus far. Great job of seal blocking by Bruce Covington, getting Blair Zur out around the corner, getting that lead block on the middle linebacker Fields, and Stewart turning it up for a gain of 16. Excellent run maneuvers by this Calgary offensive line so far.
A gain of 16 yards for Stewart. Flutie's in trouble, but he has the scrambling ability to escape and also run with the football, and he is going to get a first down and more as he takes it out of bounds at the Baltimore 40.
As only the magic man can do. Gerald Bayless was putting tremendous pressure on Doug Flutie, but he's so savvy when he's sitting back in the pocket, it's just hard to contain him.
A 17-yard gallop for Doug Flutie. Gerald Bayless, along with the other man up front, trying to put some pressure on Doug Flutie.
Well, Bayless was working against Crysdale. Crysdale pushed him to the outside, but he's able to close the pocket. Flutie felt the pressure, stepped up, stepped back out of it, got to the corner, gained 17 to put Calgary's offense in great field position, and we have a flag on the field.
Dress code violation on Calgary number 18. 10-yard penalty in front.
Now there's a delay of game penalty, a dress code violation on Alan Pitts. I'm not quite sure what the problem is.
I think Allen's towel was too long, and the official made him tuck it in, but he asked to leave the game for one play to make an adjustment in his clothing. I mean, I didn't really notice anything strange. Well, he also has white tape around his waist, and he has the red separation, so that could be the call. It's going to be interesting to see if we can get a camera to watch what occurs with his clothing on the sideline. Coach Bono is kind of upset. He's saying, hey, let the guys play the game. That's what everyone came here for.
So Vince Danielson comes into the ball game to take the slot back position previously occupied by Alan Pitts. First and 10 from the 50-yard line. Pass over the middle to Stewart, and Stewart struggles inside the 40. Stopped there by Matt Goodwin.
Well, Tony Stewart is stepping up now. He left the game last week in the third quarter in Saskatchewan, and they felt when he left, it really killed their offense. And you see him stepping up to the plate here in the first quarter, making a couple big runs and catches, and they need him to be consistent all night long.
Flutie now operating from the shotgun. He has three receivers wide to the left. He drills it over the middle to Sapunjas, and he has a first down inside the 20-yard line. And with the safety, Michael Brooks, playing as deep as he is, I wouldn't be surprised if Flutie, Sapunjas, and Pitts work on that area.
Well, when you look at the right side over there, Watson and Anthony, who had been in Calgary for the past couple of years, Dave Sapunjas knows these two defensive backs very well. He worked against them every day in practice. Doug Flutie knows of all of their ability, and he's going to manipulate them tonight.
First and 10, the ball is at the 18. Flutie's pass was knocked down at the line of scrimmage. Gerald Bayless may have got his hand on it, and Flutie thought he had a man wide open down at about the 5-yard line when he let the ball go.
He had Wiggins in his track. He was one-on-one against Carl Anthony, and Gerald Bayless, just at the moment, as you teach a defensive lineman to do, is get those hands up. If you can't get the pressure on the quarterback, get those hands up. Gerald Bayless got the hand up and knocked the pass down.
Alan Pitts, who has changed his stockings, is back in the ball game after the dress code violation. Flutie throws over the middle at the goal line, and a touchdown for Dave Sapunjas.
When they're running that six-pack, it's impossible to cover those six receivers. You're always going to have a soft man open, and Flutie and Sapunjas have worked so well, that combination, and especially last year when he caught the 103 passes. They're picking up where they left off, Don.
An 18-yard touchdown pass from Doug Flutie to Dave Sapunjas, and the Calgary Stampeders move into a 6-3 lead with Mark McLaughlin to attempt the point after. And McLaughlin converts Calgary's first touchdown of the game. Dave Sapunjas became the first Canadian-born receiver to catch over 100 passes last season. And he is having a fine game tonight here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore.
Well, you had Sponges there. Gravely passed him off over the middle. Brooks did not close. He laid back too long. And if you're laid back, you can't pass these guys off. They're coming out playing zone tonight against Calgary. Receiver Gantz trying to come across the top. Moore giving him the time. Pressberry not getting there soon enough. Flutie able to get off the pass. 7 points. Baltimore is trailing now 7-3, Don.
Well, this is something that Sapunjas and Pitts will do. They read as they run their patterns, and if they see that safety playing back, they are going to go deep over the middle.
And this is what you get when you play that zone defense. You got people looking at Flutie, but you don't have them watching the receivers. They have to pass them off in the areas, and Doug throws the balls to spots on the field, and Sapunjas ran to one of those open spots. And when you get a defense that want to play man-to-man coverage, you have the defense with their back turned, and Doug will pull it and take off running with it.
Britton on the kickoff return. The return set up left. Britton dodges a tackle and then runs into a horde of Stampeders in the vicinity of the 33-yard line. 17 yards on the return. Welcome back to Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. A crowd in the vicinity of 40,000 watching this first ever CFL game in Baltimore, and Dave Sapunjas on the receiving end of a Doug Flutie throw to put the Stampeders in front 7-3.
Well, we'll get another look at this behind Doug Flutie right here. You'll get Flutie, you'll get the middle linebacker number 50, Ernest Fields, dropping, but didn't get deep enough. The safety, Michael Brooks, is too deep. Sapunjas comes between them in that zone coverage that they're running, and Doug Flutie dropped it right over in the middle. Perfect for the touchdown to Sapunjas.
Sapunjas last year, 103 receptions and 15 touchdowns.
Not a bad year for anybody, anywhere.
Tracy Ham, good fake over the middle. The pass is complete to Chris Armstrong, who scored 2 touchdowns last week against Toronto.
Well, Chris Armstrong last week was Tracy's favorite receiver, and once again coming out. These two played together in Edmonton briefly, and when Chris was cut by Las Vegas, he called Coach Don Matthews. He brought him in, gave him a trial, and he and Tracy hooked up right away. You see Tracy here on the post to Armstrong. He's open, able to bring it in for the gain on the play.
First and 10 Baltimore from the 51. And from the shotgun formation, throwing deep for Armstrong, just beyond his reach.
Gerald Vaughn is going to have his hands full with Chris Armstrong. They know each other very well from playing in Edmonton and Calgary against each other. Tracy Ham has found his favorite receiver early in the season last week with the 6 for 116 and the 2 big touchdowns in the opening game against Toronto. And right now, Calgary has to be gathering itself. They need to get more pressure on Tracy.
6 defensive backs in now on 2nd and 10. Polk goes out, Coleman comes in. And when a Canadian team plays an American team, they do not have to play with a designated import. Pass was intended for Britton, and it was between Britton and Armstrong in the hole. So it's 3rd and 10 for Baltimore.
Well, that time with the 6 DBs, they got some pressure on Tracy, and he was forced to throw it quicker than what he wanted to, and Britton was just not able to get back to the ball. Coach Don Matthews looking a little concerned right there, wondering if after that first initial drive of the game, what has happened to his team. Calgary has stepped up defensively. It's not going to be a cakewalk.
Josh Miller got away a beauty with his first punt of the evening, a 54-yarder. Coleman and Pee Wee Smith are back for his 2nd punt of the night. Another pretty good kick that Coleman will take at the 21. Coleman ran into one of his own players, and he goes down at the 26.
One of the things that Baltimore brings to the table is the speed on their special teams. It's an exceptionally run specialty teams. A lot of CFL experience there from the coaching staff through the players. They came down. They stay in their lanes like they're taught. They surround Coleman and bring him down with a minimal gain.
Melendez Bird was downfield to make the tackle. He was a walk-on and wound up gaining permanent employment with Baltimore.
Came to one of those free agent tryouts. They like what they saw, and he was so impressive he made the team this year.
1st and 10 from the 26. Flutie fakes inside, throws over the middle for Sapunjas. And he's got a first down up at the 49.
And Michael Brooks is going to have to make an adjustment. He is going to have to move up 3 or 4 yards. He is just backpedaling, allowing Sapunjas to come underneath him. And as we know about Flutie, he is going to throw to that soft spot. And once again, Sapunjas found it between Fields and Brooks.
They refer to Memorial Stadium as the world's largest outdoor insane asylum. But they haven't had as much to cheer about so far in this game as they did in the preseason game against Winnipeg. Tony Stewart, the ball carrier, for a gain of about 9 yards. The previous pass to Sapunjas was good for 23. Sapunjas has already caught 3 passes for 62 yards.
And Stewart has done a fine job running on the ball behind this offensive line of Romano, Davis, Crysdale, Moore, and Covington, that time picking up 8 yards on first down. Now, if Doug Flutie can get his running game going with Tony Stewart, he will be almost impossible to stop tonight because he'll have all his faculties going for him.
2nd and 2, Calgary. Stewart with a good run to the 45, stopped there by the middle linebacker Ernest Fields. And that is the final play of the opening quarter at Memorial Stadium, with the visitors in front by 4.
Preparing to start the second quarter at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. Calgary in front of Baltimore 7-3. Don Matthews, head coach of the Baltimore CFLers, was telling us yesterday he thinks his team's best chance of containing Doug Flutie and beating the Calgary Stampeders is to play zone defense against the Stamps, force Flutie to hold on to the ball and throw into the zone. And Dave Sapunjas thinks he can prosper against that kind of defense. Don told me a few moments ago, as part of the zone defense Baltimore is playing, they've had a linebacker, number 7, Tracy Gravely, on him, and Sapunjas thinks he can pick on him all night, and the stats would seem to support that, because so far he's caught 3 passes for 62 yards and also had a couple called back. So this could be a big night for Dave Sapunjas.
Well, Dave Sapunjas has had success against Tracy Gravely in the past when Gravely was playing with the BC Lions. As a matter of fact, a couple of his best performances have been against Tracy Gravely. Flutie fumbled the snap from center. Was looking down the sidelines for Wiggins, but he was being covered by Carl Anthony.
When you speak about those performances, Don, in 3 games against BC last year, Dave Sapunjas averaged over a little more than 160 yards per game. That's not bad for a season, and yet he did it in 3 games against Tracy Gravely and the BC Lions.
Well, he'd have 100 yards already in this football game if 2 of the passes had not been called back.
That's true.
Second and 10. Deep for Pee Wee Smith, incomplete. Covered by Charles Anthony.
Marvelous coverage that time by Charles Anthony, running stride for stride on the inside against Pee Wee Smith, and that's how you want to play him if you're a defensive back. Force him to the sideline, and Anthony with the perfect position, getting that left hand up at the last moment, deflecting it away from Smith because he was right behind him, but Charles Anthony with the great recovery.
Well, Charles Anthony is certainly familiar with the speed of Pee Wee Smith. They were teammates in Calgary in 1991.
Well, they played against each other also last year when Charles Anthony was in Saskatchewan, and they hooked up on a couple of marvelous games.
Tony Martino stands back at the 51-yard line for this 3rd down punt. Stan Petrie is the lone man back. Good kick by Martino. It'll bounce through the end zone and out of play. Now, the end zones here at Memorial Stadium are shorter than on Canadian CFL fields. They paced them off the other day, between 16 and 17 yards deep, as opposed to the normal 20 yards in the CFL. Scott?
Don, we want to remind our audience that tonight is a doubleheader on the CFL on CBC. As soon as we're done here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, we'll send you to Las Vegas, where the Posse played their CFL regular season home opener against Ray Yawk Saskatchewan Roughriders at Sam Boyd Stadium, and where, at last word, it was, I think, about 295 degrees Fahrenheit, and all the players were on fire. At least that's the impression we got in their pregame report. We know it's awfully hot there, and we'll go to Vegas as soon as Baltimore and Calgary are complete.
Eddie Britton makes the catch, but in Vegas they'll tell you it's a dry heat as opposed to the humidity in Baltimore.
Dan Kempley and I went down to Las Vegas about 3 weeks ago to watch a preseason game with the Eskimos and the Posse, and it was almost unbearable, Don. When I walked out of the airport in Las Vegas, and I only lived down the street a little ways, it was 120 degrees, and it stopped me in my tracks.
One of the very few things that has ever stopped you, James. A first down at the 50-yard line. A 50-yard single by Martino has Calgary in front 8-3. Tracy Ham flushed out of the pocket. Being pursued now by several people, and Junior Thurman finally forces them out of bounds. Izakovic was after him, but Tracy was able to run away from the big defensive lineman and should have a first down before forced out by Junior Thurman.
Well, I think on that last play that Calgary finally realized what Tracy Ham does. Primarily, he's going to look to the right side of the formation. He could not find a receiver open. He was able to escape outside. Will Johnson got around too far in the backside. Ham was able to come around to the left, pick up 10.5 yards for the first down.
From the shotgun. Handoff to Pringle. Pringle with a good hole, and he's got another first down to the 31. Greg Knox, the safety, got to him, but not before he went for 19 yards.
Well, they've been able to victimize Calgary on the weak side of the formation, and that's where the newcomer, Kenny Walker, is. Kenny Walker is a great athlete. He has one problem, though. He cannot hear. He is a deaf athlete. It does not take away from his ability, but one thing, he cannot hear the defensive audibles. When they make the adjustments defensively, he cannot pick that up, and sometimes that's a hindrance for him.
Matt Finlay helps Walker in the signal calling defensively. Pass complete to Pringle, and Pringle should have about 9 before being stopped by Douglas Kraft.
And back to Kenny Walker for 1 second. When they're in the huddle, he will make visual contact with Matt Finley. Matt Finley will call the plays right in Kenny Walker's face because he lip reads and picks that up. But when they have to make those adjustments, once the movement starts in the CFL, you have such integral defenses, he can pick that up. And sometimes you'll see him when he comes off the defensive line, he is at a slower pace because he's trying to read what the offense is doing.
2nd and 1. Fake inside handoff to Pringle. Tracy Ham rolling to his left, tried to dump it off, and it was deflected by Gerald Vaughn.
We got a flag on the far side of the field. Look, it's in that position where you might get some offsides here, and it's going to be a critical call. Either we'll keep the drive alive or kill it.
Keep it alive is the verdict.
And Baltimore needed that because, you know, they put together a pretty good march here from the 35-yard line. Tracy Ham,
offside
just like
on the defense number 3.
Just
first
like
down.
the opening drive of the game, he is mixing his plays very well. When he throws, he goes primarily to the right side. The runs have been coming back to the left with Pringle, and it really has Baltimore, well, Calgary off balance at the moment.
Doug Kraft was offside. He has moved from the right cornerback position to the left side this year with the return of Junior Thurman. Tracy Ham looks to the end zone for Walter Wilson, incomplete.
Tracy Ham has nickel and dime his way down the field, and the same situation happened to him last week in Toronto. When he got inside the 20, he tried to go for it all, and he sort of forgot what got him to this point on the field, and he needs to stay and be more consistent with that. Take the 8 to 9 yard passes and let the receivers run with them.
Tracy Ham calls for the 6-back. And there are 6 defensive backs in there for Calgary as well. Crossing pattern with Wilson. He broke the first contact and gets inside the 10-yard line, but will be short of the first down. That was very close to being a pick play.
It was, Don. They loaded up, tripped receivers left, dual right, and they came with the slip screen. They brought Walter Wilson. He was the wide out, and he came underneath with the pick. And it wasn't almost, it was a pick play. We saw that from here. And he got underneath Kraft as he was picked by Armstrong, but he was caught short of the first down.
10:55 remaining in the first half. And again, much to the dismay of Tracy Ham, a Baltimore drive stalls, and Donald Igwebike comes in to attempt his 2nd field goal of the night. This one will be a 16-yarder. His first was good from 13 yards.
Well, this Calgary defense has been bent, but it has not broken. They've held Baltimore out twice in the red zone. And
Igwebike makes no mistake. So it's Calgary 8, Baltimore 6 with 10:42 remaining in the half.
Stampeders quarterback Doug Flutie, you'd have to assume, is loving the opportunity to play at Memorial Stadium because he's got 70 friends and relatives in the stands. The league's outstanding player 3 years running would like to use this season to erase the nightmare of the West Final in Calgary, where the Stamps heater broke in November and Flutie's hands froze. Check out this image from last November and compare it to a picture on a hot, humid Baltimore summer night. A live picture, air conditioners and fans on the sidelines at Memorial Stadium, and they're blowing cool air just like the heater was in Calgary on Doug Flutie last November. And so, Don, if Doug Flutie is a warm weather quarterback, then he should be in his element tonight at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore.
Well, certainly a contrast in weather conditions from what Doug Flutie is experiencing tonight to his final game of the 1993 season, a game that ended in failure for the Calgary Stampeders. Pee Wee Smith takes Igwebuike's kickoff, and Smith is surrounded as he gets up to the 38-yard line. You know, when you talk about weather, Michael Souls of Edmonton last week made a remark. He said, after playing a preseason game in Las Vegas, I now have played at +40 and at -40. Flutie has completed 5 of 9 for 82 yards so far in the game. He, of course, holds a number of CFL passing records, including 44 touchdown passes last year, 6,619 yards for BC in 1991. But the way Matt Dunnigan has started the year, that mark could be erased by mid-season.
Matt had a phenomenal game the other night against Edmonton. For some reason, Matt Dunnigan has figured out that Edmonton defense, the last 3 games that he has played against them, they have averaged over 52 points a game. And for some reason, they love playing him. And you got to take your hat off to Matt. Matt, congratulations on the 713 yards. You deserved it.
He not only broke the record, he totally obliterated the mark that was established by Danny Barrett. Pass over the middle, and it's complete to Dave Sapunjas once again, but I don't think the spot is going to give him a first down. Tracy Gravely came over to make the tackle.
Just to touch it again on Matt. Matt had that season-ending Achilles injury last year, and he showed the hard work and dedication that he had. He came back even stronger this year, and to prove a point that, hey, what he was doing last season was not a fluke, and he picked up right where he left off. The first 2 games of the season, Matt Dunnigan has surpassed 1,000 yards in passing already.
That'd give him 9,000 for the year, wouldn't it?
Well, you're a bet man. I wouldn't bet on that, but he's going to have a phenomenal year.
They're going for it on 3rd and 1. There's the toss to Stewart. Stewart cuts back. It's going to be close. William King came up to make the tackle.
He's not going to get the spot on this, Don. Looking at the yardsticks here, the officials seem to have him just a little bit short.
A very important measurement with 9:05 remaining in the half here at Memorial Stadium. Any portion of the football, it is a first down. Talking about Matt Dunnigan, Calgary fans are going to get an opportunity to see the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as Wally Buono's team plays its first game at home next Saturday against Matt Dunnigan and the Blue Bombers.
Well, Matt's going to be fired up along with the rest of those Bombers. Chris Walby played his 200th career game the other night in Winnipeg also.
Wide throw to the sidelines intended for Pee Wee Smith. It's out of bounds. Irvin Smith was defending against Pee Wee Smith.
Irv Smith, possibly their best one-on-one cover player, came in as a free agent also this year, played in the World League, had an NFL tryout last year. Don Matthews really wanted him. He was an all-pro in the World Football League, and here he's picking up the tempo in Baltimore.
Flutie for Pitts, and Pitts is brought down. And the 52 of Baltimore, Matt Goodwin and Carl Anthony were in on the stop. That was a gain of 8.
And Doug looked like he's going to go for it again. Alan Pitts, it's good to see Alan back in the lineup after that injury last year. He was on pace to have his 3rd consecutive 1,000-yard season, and he had the knee injury, and he just wasn't able to come back from it. They had to do surgery on it and all, but he doesn't seem to have missed a stride early here in the season with the 9 receptions in Saskatchewan last week and coming out with his first one here tonight.
Pitts last year was looking for a 3rd consecutive season of 100 or more catches. is something that had never been achieved before in professional football, and he was off to a great start with 45 catches in the first 7 games before the injury put him out for the rest of the year in August.
And he, you know, you thought the loss might have killed Calgary's offense, but Dave Sapunja stepped up and had the career season with 103 receptions.
Carl Anthony, the lone man back for this 3rd down punt. He takes it at the 17-yard line and is downed as he gets to the 22. Marvin Coleman downfield to make the tackle with 7:55 remaining in the half.
At Memorial Stadium, Calgary in front of Baltimore 8-3 midway through the 2nd quarter. Coming up on Live at the Half at halftime tonight, you'll see some of the performance of the famous Baltimore Colts marching band. They've been playing for 10 years even without a team here, so tonight is a significant performance for the band. And we're hoping to have Baltimore Mayor Kurt Schmoke with us to talk about his city's efforts to bring the '96 Grey Cup here. And we'll go to Las Vegas, where later tonight the Posse and the Saskatchewan Roughriders play the 2nd half of our doubleheader. Don,
as we look out on the stadium, that's a wonderful shot to see the stands packed like that with CFL fans watching a CFL football game. And this is going back to Canada. I hope everybody back there in Canada sees this and come out and pack the ballparks next week.
The game has also been being seen across the United States on ESPN2, and the people here in Baltimore are really enthused about having a football team again occupying Memorial Stadium.
Well, it's great for the CFL and the city, Don.
Pringle this time is met right at the line of scrimmage. He found absolutely no running room. Walker was in on the stop.
Bentley and Walker also. This Calgary defense, they've been pushed around a little bit, and it's going to be a little frustrating for them. But when it comes to stopping this Baltimore offense, they've risen to the occasion every time and not allowed them in the end zone thus far in the game.
Tracy Ham in total control of the Baltimore offense. From the shotgun on 2nd down, Ham throwing for Eddie Britton, and Britton had been knocked down by Marvin Coleman. He protested briefly to the official over there that he had been interfered with. Tracy Ham is also pursuing Britton's case, but there was no penalty flag.
Well, that ball couldn't have got to him. It slipped out of Tracy's hand, and it left out of it like a duck, end over end. And the official saw that, recognized that Britton didn't have a chance to get back to the ball, and didn't throw the flag, the proper non-call on the play.
Well, a number of fans will be heading home with souvenir posters. Posters given out to the first 7,500 in attendance tonight. Posters of the 1994 Colts. This is Pee Wee Smith on the return. Goodbye. No penalty flags, and like last week, where Mike Pinball Clemens returned a punt for a touchdown in almost the same situation, catching Baltimore players too far upfield, and Pee Wee Smith took it 58 yards for the major score, and Larry Rickman is a happy owner in his private box here at Memorial Stadium.
Don, a big problem when you kick the ball directly down the middle of the field. You really can't cut off the angles of the return man, and Pee Wee Smith, they had got too deep on the wings, was able to bring it right up the middle, and once he broke that first wave, he was off to the races.
Mark McLaughlin, who is attempting to be a 200-point man in the CFL for a 6th consecutive year, adds the point after, and with 6:32 remaining in the first half, it's now a 15-6 ball game favoring the Stamps.
Well, Pee Wee Smith did a lot of spot duty last year. You see him coming up on it. They're just not able. He hits that first seam. He breaks it out to the right, identical to Pinball Clemens last week in Toronto, and he heads towards the corner of the end zone, and you're not going to catch Pee Wee from behind, and Brooks sees that very early.
Coleman threw a key block early. You'll see it coming up right there as he hits Scott Miller, and that first block was all that Pee Wee Smith needed.
If you get that first 5 yards, if you can get through it untouched, generally you can get past people, and Pee Wee did it. A very experienced punt return, as you spoke about it, had the 2 punt returns early in his career, and there's another.
Well, he's one of 4 in the CFL to return 2 punts in a game for touchdowns. Pee Wee Smith in college was an outstanding baseball player in addition to being quite a football player. Drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays, but opted for football instead, and the Stampeders are glad he did.
Well, they're glad he ended up in Canada one way or the other, and that time he showed his electrifying speed as he got through that first wave down, broke it up to the sideline, and returned the first CFL punt return for touchdown here in Memorial Stadium.
15-6, Calgary leads. 6:32 remaining in the first half. Baltimore will be at home to Shreveport next Saturday, while the Calgary Stampeders, the last team to play a home game, next Saturday will entertain Winnipeg. And we'll have that game for you on CBC television. Pringle on the kickoff return. He runs out of room with Alondra Johnson going up high to make the tackle. A 24-yard run back. Alondra Johnson with a good burst of speed and a leap into the air to corral Mike Pringle.
Well, a lot of speed from that linebacker, Alondra Johnson, as Pringle broke through, kicked it up right through the middle, got to the outside, and Alondra had the angle on him, went up and necktied him right there and brought him to the turf. And the players on Baltimore's sideline was a little upset at Alondra's tactics right there, but he didn't grab the face mask or anything. He got underneath the helmet and brought him down.
Johnson led the Stampeders in tackles last year with 78. First and 10 Baltimore from their own 39-yard line.
That led him third in the CFL overall.
Pringle got to the line of scrimmage and not much more. Kenny Walker, the immovable object at the defensive end position, was there to make the tackle.
And right now, I don't know if Baltimore should be trying to stick with their running game. They need to show a little sense of urgency right here. They need to put together a suitable march to get down the field against this Calgary defense that is starting to progress in its aggressiveness.
Walker initially signed and brought into the CFL as a free agent by Hamilton. Pass is dumped off to Pringle, and Pringle will get the first down, taking it across midfield to the Calgary 53. Douglas Kraft came over to make the tackle.
Don, thus far in the game, Tracy Ham has only thrown one pass to the left side of the formation. Every pass, realistically, that he has thrown has been to the right side, and Calgary really hasn't figured that out. Pringle, once again, open in the flat, coming out of the backfield from his tailback position. The linebacker missed him. Knox from the free safety and Kraft from the corner had to come up and make the stop. He had a lot of ground in front of him to cover.
Baltimore merchandise is a hot commodity in this city. Sparrows had to take about $30,000 worth of T-shirts, etc., off the shelves, bearing the Colt name. This pass complete to Walter Wilson. And there was a penalty flag in the play as well, down at the 20-yard line. That is a 34-yard gain.
Tremendous concentration by Walter Wilson on the play. Tracy Ham is getting a good amount of time to pass the ball from his offensive line, and Doug Kraft was in good position on Walter Wilson as he went down the right sideline, and he was able to pull it in.
Forward pass interference by the defense. Penalty is declined. First down.
Walter Wilson streaking one-on-one. As you look into his face mask, you see the intensity in his eyes, and he gets the step on Kraft. Kraft reaches out, grabs the jersey, but a wonderful play by Walter Wilson to bring that one in.
First and 10 from the 20, the fake to Pringle. Tracy Ham looks to the end zone for Armstrong. Touchdown! Chris Armstrong has scored all 3 CFL touchdowns this year for Baltimore.
The first CFL touchdown ever scored by the Baltimore CFL franchise. Chris Armstrong from his old buddy, Tracy Ham.
Igwe Bike now with the point after. No mistake, 4:30 remaining. And Baltimore has cut into the Calgary lead. It's now just 2 points.
You know, it was a wonderful play, and what really set it up is the play fake will get hit by Tracy Ham to Mike Pringle. They've been so successful running the ball. Then they get the bootleg. Ballard, the left guard, gets out in front of Tracy Ham. Tracy gets around the corner. Chris Armstrong gets behind Gerald Bond, and Tracy just lobs it over the coverage. You see Ballard getting out front. Tracy with no pressure, just almost like a jump shot in basketball. He got it out. He led Chris Armstrong. Touchdown, Baltimore.
When Armstrong called Don Matthews after he ran into some problems in Las Vegas, the first question Matthews had for Armstrong, can you still run? Obviously, there's no doubt that he can run.
Don, he came in and ran a 4.4, and Don Matthews was very impressed, and he ran it on grass. And Chris Armstrong showed last week on the 2 post routes in Toronto that he could still get behind the secondary, and we see it once again here tonight against Gerald Vaughn, and his crowd has become electrified once again here in Baltimore. A great sight to see at a CFL contest.
Well, they're certainly getting value for their money tonight with great entertainment here at Memorial Stadium. 15-13, Calgary leading with 4:30 remaining in the first half. Coleman on the return. And he runs into traffic. Matt Goodwin was the man who forced him back inside at the 29-yard line, and Irv Smith finished the job.
And Don, big plays on offense generally translate into big plays on defense. You see that on the specialty team, the flying with reckless abandon, the players coming down, covering. I really like this Baltimore specialty team play because they have some athletes that can get down the field, corral receivers. They let Smith get through on the punt return, but they've been immaculate on the kick coverage tonight.
Wiggins lines up wide right against Carl Anthony. Flutie operates from the shotgun. 4 receivers to the left. And Flutie will go left. The pass is complete to Stewart for a gain of 5 yards. Forced out by Charles Anthony.
Well, Stewart working out in the left flat. Didn't get the coverage, rolled up on him quick enough. Made the reception before the secondary could close on him and limit the gain to 5 yards.
3:55 remaining in the half. 15-13, Calgary leads.
They're running the 5 receiver set. They got trips right, and this is what's been giving Baltimore some trouble with those linebackers trying to get out and cover the receivers.
For Sapunjas, and he was being covered by Charles Anthony.
Charles Anthony came over with Don Matthews from Saskatchewan along with Gerald Bayless. They wanted to play for their former coach. They're very happy being here. Sapunjas coming out, working one-on-one, trying to get that separation. Anthony staying with him stride for stride, getting that right arm in. Wonderful coverage by Anthony, breaking up that pass to Sapunjas.
Back deep for Baltimore, 6, Dan Petrie.
Petrie is back for this 3rd down punt by Tony Martino. He stands at the 26-yard line. Petrie takes it on the run at the 35 and brings it back to the 45. There's also a penalty flag back in the Calgary side of midfield. Greg Frères was upfield to make the tackle.
Well, Baltimore has a good game plan going in tonight. They've run the ball and they've passed it. They've mixed it well. Tracy Ham has been in good control, and the fans have been witnessing a wonderful ball game at this point, 15-13. You couldn't have asked for more for the first opening game here in Baltimore of the regular season.
This is the 40th anniversary for Memorial Stadium, built in 1954, now occupied by the CFL entry in 1994. The baseball team, the Orioles, play in Hamden Yards, a beautiful facility down in the Inner Harbor.
And Don, it's also the 25th anniversary of something else today.
Yes, the launching of Apollo 11, as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin a couple of days later were the first to set foot on the moon.
3 days later, they landed on the moon, the first man moonwalk.
.305 remaining in the first half here at Memorial Stadium. 1st and 10. The infraction against Baltimore. Movement at the line of scrimmage. Tracy Ham escapes the blitzing safety. Greg Knox throws for Chris Armstrong, and he takes it out of bounds up at the 50.
We're going to get Shreko Zisikovic, jumps off right in the middle of the defensive line, and Tracy Ham executed the play.
Armstrong looking to see what the penalty call is. Offside against Calgary. Zizakovic jumped prematurely. So it will be a 24-yard game.
Well, you got to be clear on that because you got 2, and Mrs. Zizakovic might get a little upset about that.
2:52 is the time left in the first half.
At Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. Baltimore in front of the Calgary Stampeders by 2 with 2:52 to go in the first half of this ball game. 2 nights ago in Winnipeg, Matt Dunnigan had an outstanding game, an out-of-body football experience for a quarterback, throwing for his single-game record of 713 yards. Used to be 400 yards passing was an impressive total for his CFL quarterback, but forget that now. Dunnigan's taken it to a whole new level, and not even Doug Flutie thinks he'll ever reach it.
I can't imagine throwing for 700. I think that 600 was a possibility. You know, there were a lot of games where he threw for 550 or 560, something like that, and you felt like you moved the ball up and down field for the entire game. So 600 was maybe reachable, and it was one of those things that you'd have to have a great game from beginning to end. 700 is just amazing to me. There must have been, I don't know how many big plays, but Matt just must have had a heck of a game, and I'm waiting to see the film.
Pringle makes the catch and has a gain of about 7. Kenton Leonard took the feet out from under him. And you know, if Dunnigan passed for 713 yards, Alfred Jackson 7 catches for 308 yards. David Williams, almost forgotten, he caught 10 passes for 244.
And both of those players surpassed the previous club record by James Murphy of 221 yards that he had set several years back.
Everybody in Baltimore, players with the Baltimore entry and with the Stampeders yesterday, talking about the Matt Dunnigan performance.
It's been an exciting 1.5 weeks thus far in the CFL.
Pringle trying to stretch out to get the first down. He was denied by Walker with help from Finlay. Elsewhere tonight in the CFL, Toronto is in Shreveport, and the Pirates are leading by a score of 6-0 in the first quarter. And later tonight, the second half of our CFL doubleheader on CBC television from Sam Boyd Stadium in Las Vegas. The Posse entertain the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Third down gamble for Baltimore. Tracy Ham rolling out. He's under pressure. Throws. And the pass. It's a catch. They rule that it is a catch to Sean Beals.
Great concentration by Sean Beals coming all the way across field. Tracy came with the boot. Calgary read it into the sideline, cornered him up, made him pull up. Sean Beals being alert. Tracy able to get the ball out. Beals going down low enough to get it. You see him right here pulling his right guard, Glenn. Walker with excellent pressure, but Beals with great concentration getting that left arm underneath the football for the kick.
Tracy Ham over the middle, and Armstrong has another reception. Gerald Vaughn brought down Armstrong, and that will be close to another first down.
Well, Chris is really having a rebirth of his career, getting back with Tracy, coming on once again a crossing pattern over the middle, and Vaughn just not able to keep up with these slot backs of Baltimore, and they just been running havoc through the secondary of Calgary.
4 catches for 73 yards and a touchdown. He spent 2 years in the CFL previously with Ottawa. With Edmonton, and 1 with Ottawa.
Well, he's happy to be here in Baltimore. Coach Matthews is happy to have him as part of this receiving corps. They lost a receiver last week in the warm-ups, D.K. Williams, who tore an Achilles tendon, and Chris Armstrong came into the game and got his big chance and hasn't looked back, and I don't think he'll look back all year long, Don.
Second and inches with 1:30 remaining in the first half. 15-13 Calgary leads, but Baltimore is threatening. Ball comes loose. Tui Peloto was the man that Ham was attempting to give it to, and Alondra Johnson has got it.
A big break for the Stampeders. Tracy looked like he tried to pull that out of Tui Peloto and run the veer, and Tui Peloto just did not let the ball go, and it went to the ground, and Alondra Johnson, being very alert, gets the turnover for Calgary.
Well, Calgary snuffed out an opening drive by Baltimore.
They stopped Baltimore on another drive, and this is the third time in the first half that Baltimore has been in position to perhaps put it in the end zone, and the Stampeder defense is tight.
Great shot by ISO Director Mo Waters right there. As you can see Tracy Ham trying to pull it out, and Tuipulotu holding on too tight.
Flutie from the shotgun. Overthrew Will Moore. It will be second and 10.
Well, right now, Calgary has to be breathing a sigh of relief. Once again, Baltimore was marching down the field. Tracy Ham was doing a wonderful job mixing his plays. And one of those mistakes that always kills a drive, not enough concentration on a play.
John Hufnagel signaling to Doug Flutie. He is the offensive coordinator for the Stampeders. Flutie on second down is going to run. He'll try and get a first down. He's got it and more. Doug Flutie at his best when he is in a scrambling mood. And that certainly will spread out a defense, and he rambled for 26 yards.
Don, it will kill a defense. You know, you get Doug Flutie, you got that big defensive line pushing hard up front, and he escapes up through the middle when they open up that hole and gets out on the corner. We saw Dave Sapunjas throw that downfield block, allowing Doug Flutie to pick up an extra 10 yards on the run.
1:03 remaining in the half, out of the shotgun from midfield. Flutie completes the pass to Tony Stewart for another first down.
Well, excellent read by Doug Flutie, catching Tony Stewart coming out of the backfield. Using it, he had been blocking and decoying, but that time the linebackers had dropped off, given too much of a cushion. An 8-yard pass turned into an 11-yard gain.
57 seconds remaining. The ball is at the 43 of Baltimore. Pitts has it for another first down at the 25.
You know, it's great to see Alan Pitts outrunning pass routes once again. He's that big angular receiver, and Goodwin was not able to stay with Pitts as he squared off that route out towards the sideline, and Flutie had it right on the money for another first down to the 25-yard line.
2 years ago, Alan Pitts established a league record with 118 receptions. Flutie goes to the sidelines for Stewart again, and he'll be close to another first down as he's taken out of bounds once again.
A gain of 8 on the play. Doug Flutie can operate under the 3-minute warning as well as any quarterback anywhere in football, and he right now is in complete control of this Baltimore defense. He is maneuvering his way down the field, spreading it out to all of his receivers.
38 seconds remaining in the half. Second and 1. Flutie is going to keep struggling to get a first down, but he should be inside the 15. William King, who is playing the defensive end spot, managed to stop him.
Good read by King on the play, not being fooled by Doug Flutie. Flutie trying to slide off of his left tackle Bruce Covington and left guard Rocco Romano, and King stayed at home and held up that corner of the offense and limited Doug's gain on the play.
King has been moved to a rush end position, and he, Pressbury, and Gerald Bayless are doing some rotating as Coach Matthews wants to have a fresh man in there at all times.
Well, he also has Scott Miller, who is coming in, spelling that group also, Don. And with this humidity, that is a good, wise move by the coach. And also, Coach Buono has done the same thing with the Zeskovic brothers, Lubo and Treco, Kenny Walker, moving in and out of the rotation.
The measurement reveals a Calgary first down at the 15. Flutie on the keeper. Touchdown. Excellent fake by Doug Flutie. And he went all the way for the major score. He faked to Stewart and took off to the left for a 15-yard touchdown.
Don, I spoke about that earlier in the game, the type of coverage that you want to run against Doug Flutie. When you run the zone coverage, he'll find the soft spots, drop the ball in. Alan Pitts and Dave Sapunjas read it so well. But when you go into a man coverage, Doug Flutie likes to pull down the ball and run with it. And after the extra point, we'll get our ISO director, Mo Waters, to bring it back, and we'll show it to our fans back home.
What a change in the final minute of this first half. Just when Baltimore looked as though they were moving downfield to erase a 2-point deficit, they lose the football, and Doug Flutie takes it the other way for a 15-yard touchdown and a 22-13 lead.
will get Doug. He comes with the naked bootleg with the flake to Tony Stewart. And as he gets around the corner, you'll see no one in the secondary here. He's closing on everyone, and no one is around. This is because they're in a man defense, and everyone had their backs turned to Doug, and no one recognized that he was running until he got to the end zone. We see once again from behind as everyone in the secondary is off and running, and you'll see if we can get a freeze right there, all the defensive players have their back to Doug Flutie, and Alan Pitts gets the key block out of the corner and roll on through, and he just waltzes right into the end zone. That's what a man defense will do against Doug Flutie. It will turn their backs, and he will start running.
Wally Buono talking with Matt Finlay on the sidelines. One of the other coaches with Calgary this year, a newcomer, Frank Spaziano, in charge of the defensive secondary. Finlay communicating, as you mentioned earlier, James, on the field with Kenny Walker, the defensive end, helping him understand the signals. Dual responsibilities for the veteran Matt Finlay in this football game. Of the 80 yards that Calgary moved for the major score, Doug Flutie ran for 42.
And Baltimore was right in this game at 15-13 and marching inside the 25-yard line. That critical mistake on the handoff to Ipelotu, and Tracy Ham and Alondra Johnson recovered it, and Doug Flutie taking advantage, marching his club right down the field for the major to put them up 22-13.
Pringle back to the 10-yard line. He runs into some traffic around the 30. Biggs was in on the stop. That limited the run back to 21 yards.
Right now, you'll see Calgary laying back in that prevent defense. They'll give Tracy Ham a short pass underneath, but they're not going to allow him to get up over top and possibly get down in the scoring range with 18 seconds to go.
We didn't see Tracy Ham do a lot of running last week against Toronto until late in the football game. Hasn't done much running so far tonight against Calgary either.
Well, I think he's more inclined at this point in his career to prove himself as a passer more than a ball runner. He has capable running backs in Pringle and Canley and Tui Pelotu, as we see Pringle on his last run of 14 yards right here, to let them go out and get those hard yards, and he'll distribute the ball around to his receivers.
15 yards for Pringle. 12 seconds remaining in the half.
Shop value food and save more money today.
Britton lines up wide right. Tracy Ham going again without the huddle. He dumps it off to Pringle, and coming up quickly to meet him is Alondra Johnson. Johnson had dropped off and then came up quickly on the final play of the half to make the tackle on Pringle. And the Calgary Stampeders head to the dressing room, leading Baltimore after 30 minutes of play, 22-13. Scott?
Don, the CFL game is underway at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore in front of 40,000 fans. Doug Flutie and the Calgary Stampeders putting on a show. Calgary leads by 9 at the half. Stand by now for Live at the Half from Baltimore.
Donald Igwe-Bike preparing to kick off to start the second half. Coleman will wait for it at the 15. Good tackle by Matt Goodwin, bringing him down at the 35. A 20-yard return by Marvin Coleman. Matt and Malcolm Goodwin, twins on the roster of the Baltimore team.
Have you found out whether they're the first twins to play or not, Don? Yeah, I was leaving that up to you because I didn't want to mess with the guru.
No, as Dan Kepley explained last week in the game in Toronto, Steve and Dan Kearns in Hamilton and Edmonton.
Were they brothers or twins?
Twins.
Well, these are identical twins.
Flutie on first down, caught by Pressbury.
Robert Pressbury had the big game in Toronto last week. He had the 5 tackles and had some pressures on Mike Kerrigan, but that time he was able to corral the agile Doug Flutie as he was trying to roll left, and Pressbury got away from Covington, got one of those big mitts on Doug's jersey, and just slung him to the turf at Memorial Stadium.
Flutie was sacked 4 times last week. Pressbury gets the first sack on Flutie tonight. Flutie operating from the shotgun, 2nd and 18. This time with protection for Sapunjas, and the safety Brooks came up. Sapunjas went up, reaching for the ball, and Brooks came up and may have got a hand on it. Sapunjas was the leading receiver for Calgary in the first half with 70 yards. Statistically, this was the story of the opening 30 minutes here at Memorial Stadium. Look at the time of possession. Baltimore with a huge edge, but they had 3 drives stall in what you refer to as the red zone.
But it was the turnovers that killed them, and especially the last fumble of the first half with Tuipulotu in hand, just mishandled the ball, and Flutie marched them down the field.
Martino just got it away with Washington charging in. Petrie breaks 1 tackle and then is down at the 42. Dwayne Demtrishan was downfield to make the tackle. Scott?
Argos kicked off less than an hour ago. Let me repeat myself. I don't think my mic was on. An update from Shreveport, Louisiana, where the Pirates and Argos kicked off less than an hour ago. Wayne Walker and Terrence Jones hook up on a 61-yard touchdown play. 20-10 Pirates now over the Argos in the second quarter. And Walker and Jones, 2 of the players who joined Shreveport from Ottawa in the offseason. Could it be reports of the Pirates' weakness may have been overstated early in the season, Don?
Yes, he only completed 1 pass in game 1 in a loss to Ottawa. And now he has Terrence Jones, that is, Shreveport ahead of Toronto. And here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, Tracy Ham and Mike Pringle trying to erase some of the 9-point deficit they are facing to start the second half. It will be 2nd and 1.
Back to Terrence Jones. That was a very tough performance he had in that first game in Ottawa. You know, only 1 of 20. And it's good to see the young man be able to come back tonight and have his team off to a 20-10 lead in that game down in Shreveport. A big plus for his confidence.
Pringle will get the first down as he goes off tackle. Yes, Shreveport was hammered 40-10 by Ottawa in the season opener. A dismal performance by Terrence Jones. But obviously he's putting the ball in the air more successfully in game 2 against Toronto.
Well, it's very critical in the CFL that you have strong leadership at the quarterback position, and he had an off week hopefully, and he won't have any more of those the rest of the season.
Armstrong and Wilson with 4 and 3 catches, the lone touchdown for Baltimore by Armstrong. And now it's Sean Beals taking it into the Calgary 43 for another first down. Tripped up by Kenton Leonard. Sean Beals, one of 4 ex-Calgary Stampeders on the roster of Baltimore. 14 yards in the game.
And Don, you look at Tracy, he's having a better visual of the field. That time he checked off the 3 different receivers as he rolled out to the right side of the formation and threw back against the grain to Sean Beals, and Beals was there to pick up the first down.
22-13, Calgary leads. Baltimore has controlled the football, and they've moved it well. They've had difficulty putting it in the end zone. Pringle picks up about 5. Stopped by middle linebacker Marvin Pope.
Running a counter play, they take a long time to develop. You pull the right side of your offensive line, you come back into the weak side of the formation, running that misdirection, hoping to get this fast-flowing Calgary defense to take a step in the wrong direction, and you can get and seal that corner, and that time Marvin Pope was able to recover.
He's been the busiest player in handling the football in the game, 12 carries so far. Tracy Ham is going to try and run for a first down, and he'll get it. As a matter of fact, he could get to the end zone. No, he's forced to dive in front of Greg Knox.
The turf monster rolls up and got Tracy Ham, but Tracy had a little more speed. He's so deceptive when he's running with the football. Marvin Pope looked like he might have had an angle on Tracy, but Tracy came out, he ran in the shotgun, looked right, couldn't find an open receiver, stepped up in the pocket, eluded the rush, got around that left corner, and he was up the corner. Walter Wilson getting a downfield block on Thurman, but Tracy got his toe stubbed in the turf and went down.
27 yards for Tracy Ham. Now he throws over the middle. It's deflected high and intercepted by Greg Knox. The safety managed to get it. Greg Knox, a Vanier Cup winner in 91, a Grey Cup winner in 92, snuffs out another Baltimore drive. The Wilfrid Laurier product, Greg Knox, coming up with a key interception at the goal line.
Another big turnover by the Calgary defense. They've been pressured all night long, but they've been able to come up with the big plays, the fumble recoveries, and on that last drive, the interception by Knox at the goal line, getting it out to the 4.5 to foil another Baltimore drive. Baltimore has been marching the ball in between the 20s, but they haven't been able to push it in.
And the guy wearing number 8 in blue is not nearly as happy as the guy on the other side of the field wearing the numeral 8. Tracy Ham has moved the team, as I mentioned earlier, the length of the field, but down posts, they haven't been able to score with the exception of the touchdown toss to Chris Armstrong.
And that time, just a great defensive effort by Calgary. Baltimore had driven the ball down on them. Looked like they were in good position to punch it in for their second touchdown of the night and just couldn't get it across.
Will be towed. You're blocking an ambulance. First and 10, Calgary from the 4.
Cloutier is backed up to his own 4-yard line for this first down play. He gives to Tony Stewart, and Stewart isn't going anywhere as O.J. Brigance made sure of that.
Ernest Fields with a little help from his middle linebacker's position. Both of those players have been very active tonight. Doug Flutie in a critical second and long situation right here.
Flutie has passed for 140 yards in the football game tonight. Last week, he passed for 281 yards in a losing cause against Saskatchewan.
But his 59 rushing has been the most critical offense that he's produced tonight.
This pass is deflected, and it won't get into the hands of Tony Stewart.
William King came up with the big tip on the Flutie pass. Flutie rolling out to his left. William King staying at home at that rush in position, able to get the pressure up in Flutie's face, and Flutie couldn't get over the top of it.
Baltimore is going to get the ball back in excellent field position. It should be on Calgary's side of midfield as Martino will be kicking out of the end zone.
Well, right here, it looks like Baltimore is going to come with an all-out rush, and I think it's a good position right here to do it. Coach Matthews has his troops all up on the line of scrimmage. Look for pressure up the middle.
Petrie is the lone man back. Martino gets away a fine kick. Petrie has to go back to his own 52, and then he's decked as he gets inside the 50. There's also a penalty flag at midfield. Roger Reinson is the man who hit Petrie. We'll sort out the penalty in just a moment, but right now, let's go down to Scott.
All right, Don, here's a face that is likely familiar to Canadian TV audiences. Not mine, this guy. Irv Cross played for Philadelphia and Los Angeles in the NFL, but gee whiz, he loves the Baltimore CFL franchise so much he's bought a portion of it. Have I got it right?
Well, Scott, that's right. I tell you, it's a very exciting game, and we've got somewhere close to 42,000 people sitting in the stadium today. We're very happy to see that. I think America is beginning to catch on to Canadian football pretty fast. It's exciting stuff.
Should have said earlier that you're well known for your work on NFL telecasts a few years back. Is this the first step in many CFL franchises in America, do you think?
The first step?
Many flagship franchises, because there are 4 of them now.
Well, you know, I think this game is an exciting football game. People in Canada know that. You've watched it for years, and I think Americans are going to like it. It's fast-moving, you know, about the bigger, wider field and everything else, but it's football, and football is #1 in this country. People like contact, and they like high scoring. They're going to get it in the CFL.
Okay, well, the preceding was a free-time political telecast on the part of the CFL by Irv Cross, that's latest convert. Thanks for your time, Irv.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me.
And Irv Cross is not the only one who likes the pace of this football game. Speaking to a number of the media people, and there were over 200 applications for media credentials for this game, many remarked about the pace of the game and how you really don't have time to turn around and talk to anyone while trying to watch the game and cover it for a newspaper or radio or television.
So you don't want to step out going to get a drink and trying to come back and the score's changed on you if you're in the media.
Complete to number 84.
Wilson takes the pass up to the 53-yard line. Matt Finlay and Kenton Leonard stopped him after a gain of 9 yards.
And once again, Baltimore has the ball, and they have a second and medium, and Tracy Ham has been able to get good yardage on all his first down plays. He really hasn't been in many 2nd and 10s, Don, in this game. He picked up 8 yards on that penalty play.
On 2nd down, Sean Beals has a first down at the 45 on Calgary. Caught by Gerald Vaughn.
And Vaughn has had his hands full all night long. Tracy Ham has gone after him repeatedly. Sean Beals and Armstrong have been able to get past him, that time on a crossing route by Beals, picking up the first down with a nice gain on the play.
7:25 remaining. Sean Beals spent time with Calgary. Now Walter Wilson breaks the tackle. He's out of East Louisiana, or East Carolina, I should say, the same school that Dan Kepley went to.
And Henry Gizmo Williams.
And Walter Wilson gives Baltimore another first down.
I like what Tracy has done tonight on first down, Don. He hasn't gone out, tried to force things. He's been moving the ball around to various receivers. He hasn't set a pattern other than throwing to the right a lot, but he's moving the ball once again.
Fake inside to Pringle, and Tracy Ham will get about 8 yards, maybe 9, brought down by Alondra Johnson. Coach Don Matthews was saying Tracy didn't run as much against Toronto in the first game of the season as some people may be accustomed to, but his running was very timely in Toronto.
It was timely, but the thing about that, by Tracy not running as much as he did when he was younger, is that his game has become more complete. He is more of an accomplished quarterback now.
Pringle on 2nd down. He'll convert this into another Baltimore first down.
And when you look at Tracy, by him running the ball and having those 1,000-yard rushing seasons, his receivers were not utilized to their full capability. Now, learning a new system here in Baltimore, because this is not the system that he played in Edmonton, nor the system that he played in Toronto, and this is his system from its inception. He's their initial quarterback, and it's all his to win with, and that's what he's trying to accomplish out of this.
3 receivers wide to the right. Handoff to Pringle. Pringle trying to cut back inside. He was thrown forward by
Shreko Zizakovic.
Let's see where they spot it. They'll spot it where he landed down at the 12-yard line. Zizakovic had initially made contact with him about 5 yards further upfield.
Well, his body never touched the ground, and what Shreko did was spun him around, and he bounced off of Shreko and rolled out an extra 2 to 3 yards before he touched on the ground.
Ham checking off, taking a look at the Calgary defense. 2nd and 5, Baltimore. He throws into the end zone, incomplete, looking for Armstrong, covered by Kenton Leonard.
And once again, Baltimore down in the red zone, not able to execute and get in the end zone. Kenton Leonard with the good coverage on Armstrong, squeezing him to the inside. Tracy trying to lob it over the top. Leonard with the excellent coverage, and Don, a point that you came to early in the game, these end zones are only 17 yards deep, so he had to pull up about 3 yards short, hoping to catch that one, and they just ran out of room.
That's 4 times now. Baltimore has been in what is referred to as the red zone by players and coaches inside the 25-yard line, and they've been forced 3 times to settle for, or twice earlier, a field goal by Igwe-Bike, and now a 3rd time a field goal by Igwe-Bike, and this one is also good with 4:41 remaining in the 3rd quarter.
Calgary by 6 in the 3rd quarter here in Baltimore. It's Super Sunday on CBC Sports tomorrow. We'll start our day with the final round of the British Open from Turnberry, Scotland. Through 3 rounds, there are co-leaders Fuzzy Zeller and Brad Faxon, both 9 under par. Zeller's round today included 1 bogey and 6 birds. He was 64. 3rd round leader Tom Watson was 69 today, and he's 1 off the lead. Round 4 coverage at 9:30. We'll follow the Open with the Molson Indy Toronto. Robbie Gordon has the pole, qualified in a track record. Paul Tracy qualified 5th, so he's on row 3. And following the Indy, we'll go to Calgary for the Stampede, and then later in the evening, a primetime Calgary Stampede special on the full network. So it's Super Sunday tomorrow on CBC Sports. Don?
Yes, indeed, Super Sunday, with golf, auto racing, and the Calgary Stampede, following a doubleheader of football tonight. Immediately after this Baltimore-Calgary game, we go to Sam Boyd Stadium in Las Vegas for the Posse and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Coleman on the kickoff return, bringing it back to the 41, 31-yard run back with 4:33 remaining in the third quarter.
A stern test right here for this Baltimore defense to see if they can corral quarterback Doug Flutie and his Calgary offense one more series to give Baltimore an opportunity to get back into this game before the third quarter runs out.
Don Matthews was talking about Flutie yesterday, saying one thing he is capable of doing is making a big play, and I think Baltimore fans saw that in the first half. And they may see it again right here with Alan Pitts on the receiving end of a throw to the 45-yard line.
You know, a beautiful pair of slot backs that Doug Flutie has to operate with. You got Dave Sapunjas on one side, Alan Pitts on the other. Who do you cover? I mean, Allen came through there like a gazelle, untouched on that last play, and Doug put the ball right on the money.
First and 10 from the 45 of Baltimore, 3:52 remaining in the third quarter. Flutie dumps it off to Stewart, and Stewart will have 6 more. When Flutie looks upfield, and if his primary targets are covered throughout this game, he's been able to dump it off to Stewart.
Well, Stewart has been a great safety valve. I mean, he's really coming into his own this year. He came in last year when Keyvan Jenkins had been hurt. If you look at the comparisons between the quarterbacks, Tracy Ham 278, Doug Flutie 164. But Doug Flutie has gotten more out of his if you look at the scoreboard, 22-16.
Over the middle, intended for Sapunjas. Tracy Gravely was all over him. And it will be 3rd and 4.
Number 7.
Gravely that time able to come across Sapunjas with the left hand, get it in and deflect the ball. Doug Flutie had the ball on the money. Right now we got a 3rd and 5 situation, 3rd and 4 down, and looks as if Calgary is going to go for it.
Oh, this is a big gamble by Wally Buono with 3:12 remaining in the third quarter. Penalty flag on the play. Doug Flutie is going to try and run for a first down, and he'll get it. But the ball comes loose, and Baltimore has recovered.
The ball is down. The ground cannot cause the fumble, but what's more critical is what is the flag? Who was offsides on the play? We're going to get an offside that's going to determine whether this run is good or not. And the penalty was against Calgary, so the ball is going to be brought back from the point of the line of scrimmage.
An illegal procedure call against Calgary.
What you got was one of those receivers.
Procedure on the offense, number 60. 3rd down repeat.
Bruce Covington once again being flagged in a critical situation for the Stampeders, costing where Doug Flutie had run and got the first down on his own. Now they're going to be forced into a punting situation. Great defensive stand by this Baltimore football club.
Tony Martino stands back at his own 52-yard line. And again, just one man back, and that is Stan Petrie.
Don, they've been getting a lot of pressure up the middle. Charles Anthony for one, and they've been coming after Martino. We got to stop a play. I heard a flag.
You heard a flag or you heard a whistle? You've got great ears if you heard a flag. 2:35 is the time remaining in the third quarter.
Way to gauge where a team fits in a city's list of priorities is to check the papers. In Baltimore, the Sun is the city's leading publication, and apparently it considers the CFL franchise here to be major league. When the CFL team won in Toronto last week, it pushed the Orioles off the first sports page, and this is what the paper carried today. Game day in Baltimore, a major takeout on Doug Flutie, and inside the sports section, a stats section, and some sidebar stories. Pretty much what you'd find, well, maybe more than you'd find in papers in Canadian CFL cities on the dates of home games. And the Sun also reports, Don, on every other CFL game. We got the results of other games in here yesterday and again today. So I'd say this, the education of our American brethren is underway.
Well, it has been quite amazing to visit Baltimore and get public reaction to the first home game of the CFL team. People all around the city talking about it, in restaurants, in taxis, that sort of thing.
Don, you were even asked if you were a football player yesterday.
I think they're reflecting back to the good old days of Johnny Bennett's. They thought I was a football player. Sheldon Ganley on the receiving end of that toss. But James, to get back to the third down punt by Calgary by Tony Martino, I concur with you. I also thought I heard a whistle. It may have been a whistle in the stands that we were picking up because there was no penalty flag and no infraction marched up. Chris Armstrong could not hang on up at the 38-yard line, so it's 2 and out for Baltimore. One of the few times that Tracy Ham tonight has not been able to string together at least a couple of first downs.
Well, at that time, the Calgary defense came up. They got good pressure up the middle from Stu Laird and Treko Zisakovic, and they arrived right at Tracy Ham. You see Tracy sitting in the pocket, and you'll see the pressure coming right up the middle, and Zisakovic right there, and Armstrong let that one go off his fingertips. That was a catchable ball. He just didn't bring it in, and Miller back to punt once again.
Pee Wee Smith, who has already returned a punt for a touchdown in the football game, fields it again. And he goes down at the 50-yard line, surrounded by a group led by Michael Brooks.
Well, Miller is going to have to start angling those balls towards the sideline to limit the return area that Pee Wee has to come in, because when you're kicking it straight down the middle, he's been victimized twice in his first 2 CFL games. Last week, Pinball Clemens took one back. Tonight, Pee Wee Smith has taken one back. He won't have a long, illustrious career if he keeps allowing that.
First and 10 Calgary. The ball is at the 50 of Baltimore. .119 remaining in the third quarter. 22-16 is the score here at Memorial Stadium. For Alan Pitts, and that will be very close to a first down.
Well, no one has been able to cover Pitts tonight. When Flutie has decided that he wanted to go to him, he's been wide open. That time Goodwin is working on him one-on-one, but Pitts gets that outside step on him and breaks it off real sharp. That knee must be 100% because he is not having any difficulty with his flow on those legs.
118 receptions in 91, 103 in 92, just 7 games and 45 catches in 1993. But Alan Pitts is back, obviously, in 94, playing very well. This one was intended for Brian Wiggins, and it was knocked down by Kenny Watson.
Great recovery by Watson on the play, Don. He came over from his halfback position as Wiggins had got down the sideline, and Flutie got too much air under that. That floated, and it gave Watson time to come across and bat that one away. Wiggins actually had it in his hands, but great defensive presence by Watson.
21 seconds remaining in the third quarter. From the shotgun, Flutie on the quarterback draw, following the block of Bruce Covington. And Flutie takes the ball to the 18-yard line. That was a design play, I would suspect, all the way, a 22-yard romp on a quarterback draw.
Only as Doug Flutie can do it. He's back in the shotgun. He takes a step back. He reads the defense, and he takes off straight up the middle. Great blocking by his offensive line, and downfield by Bruce Covington as he breaks it off to the left. He eludes defenders. He sees Pressberry coming from behind. Ducks, avoids the hit, comes back for another play.
First and 10 from the 18. Flutie looks to the end zone for Pitts, and he overthrew him. Pitts got turned around by Petrie, and that is the final play of the third quarter here at Memorial Stadium. Calgary in front, 22-16. Well, Doug Flutie has some fond memories of Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, but all of them are baseball related. He talked with Scott earlier about trying to nail down a ball hit into the bleachers by Thurman Munson, and he was also here for Brooks Robinson Day.
Well, what we've seen tonight with Doug Flutie, Don, is a player that has matured himself as a quarterback. He is not trying to do it all by himself. He is utilizing all of his weapons, running backs and receivers.
Flutie would like to put one in the end zone. Will Moore was the man he was looking for, incomplete. Just a little high, and Flutie's a little upset with himself.
He had Alan Pitts running free on the backside, who had gotten behind Petrie with his first step at the line of scrimmage. He had that running start, and if Flutie had a look left, he had Pitts wide in opening end zone, and he knew he should have had more, and he just threw it too high because he was behind the coverage also.
So now Mark McLaughlin will come into the ball game to attempt a field goal of 25 yards. It's good. And the Stampeders again have a 9-point lead.
CFL fans look for the Mighty Good Football promo. It'll put you in the seat to see more CFL.
You know, Don, when we look at the overall structure of this game, we've had a pretty productive game from both sides, being 25-16 at the moment. Doug Flutie feeling that he should have gotten his team into the end zone for the touchdown on that drive. And here's our third quarter stats.
These are the numbers that favor Baltimore, but on the scoreboard, it's 25-16 Calgary. And one of the important statistics tonight, 39,247 watching the game. The debut of Baltimore in the CFL here at Memorial Stadium.
And on that ticker tape there, the telling statistic was the 2 turnovers by Baltimore, because they were both in the red zone, and it cost them critical points out of this score.
A fumble and an interception, and penalty flags fly on first down from the 35.
And you figure with Igwebuike, the field goal kicker, it's a guarantee of 6 points. If nothing else, it would have put them on the board at 22-25 at the moment. But Calgary was able to capitalize, especially on that one right at the end of the half. Right here, you see Tracy pulling out from Subas, the center, not communicating on the snap too well, but Tracy able to go in and recover, but they get an illegal procedure, and it cost them 5 yards.
First and 15 now from the 30-yard line. Dumped off to Walter Wilson. He tried to cut back into the middle, trying to pick up some blocking. The center, Subas, was out in front, but Junior Thurman came across to make the tackle.
Excellent pursuit on that play by Sreko Ziksakovic from his nose guard position, getting out in that slip screen, tripping up Walter Wilson and allowing Thurman to recover and bring him down for the stop on the play. Sreko, he's most happy to be playing with his brother Lubo this year here in Calgary, who came over in a trade from Hamilton. And Wally was happy to have both brothers. They both are different type players, 6'7" and 6'5", but one's a power player and the 6'7" player is the finesse player.
And you talked about Lubo Zizakovic. He played college football at the University of Maryland and played a number of times here at Memorial Stadium at the University of Maryland. Walter Wilson is the injured player. Scott, can you update the Shreveport-Toronto game?
Well, Don, as they tend to Wilson, I can do that, because in Shreveport, the Pirates and Argos at the half down. The Argos have closed to within 3, but Gill, the thrill Fennerty, on a 1-yard rush for the touchdown to restore Shreveport's 10-point lead. And it is 27-17 now for Shreveport over Toronto at halftime.
And here at Memorial Stadium, it's 25-16. Calgary leading Baltimore with 13:31 remaining in the football game. And remember, immediately following this game, we'll go to Sam Boyd Stadium in Las Vegas, where the Posse entertain the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Chris Cuthbert, Dan Kepley, and Mark Lee are standing by for the first ever CFL game in Las Vegas.
So Walter Wilson coming off the field under his own power. And I believe that when he was hit on that play by Zizakovic, might have twisted his knee just a little bit, but they get Gaetano, who will come into the game now and fill in for him.
2nd and 10. Tracy Ham's in trouble, and he's caught. Oh, did Pope come up with a burst of speed when he had Tracy Ham in his sights.
Big Daddy with the big play. Marvin Roman from that middle linebacker position catching Tracy, and now we got Tracy on the limp. Looked like he might have twisted an ankle or knee as Pope wrapped him up low. You'll see Pope coming from that outside on the rush. He grabs Tracy. He goes down on him right here, and he rolls up on that foot, and he looked like he twisted his ankle. But another great play by Marvin Pope, who's had an outstanding defensive night tonight for Calgary.
Obviously, all that running he did with Wally Buono to get into shape has paid off, but now there's concern in Baltimore about the health of Tracy Ham. John Congemi will get ready on the sidelines.
We'll make Wally Buono the new Richard Simmons of Canada.
3rd down punt by Miller. It will be taken by Pee Wee Smith at the 45. They're trying to set up the blocking to the right, and Smith was forced to cut it back to the middle. and got to midfield. He was tackled there by Matt Goodwin. 12:48 remains in the game. His right ankle. And we don't have any word as yet to the extent of the injury, but as Marvin Pope made the tackle, it appeared as though the ankle got twisted right there. With a first down to the 37. Flutie stood back there and he saw Pitts wide open and drilled it right into his hand.
Well, it's hard to miss him, and he's running freely in front of Petrie on those crossing routes. He and Sapunjas have been very effective tonight in running those routes. Back to Baltimore, one thing they do they'll have is a very capable backup in John Conjemi with massive amounts of CFL experience, and he's warming up on the sideline, and he'll come in the next time they have the ball on offense.
Pitts with 9 receptions in his first game of the year, 5 already in this one. And over on the far side of the field, it is Wiggins with another first down, Calgary.
Nice play called by Doug Flutie. Brian Wiggins went down and drove off Carl Anthony. Anthony couldn't recover. He broke back to his quarterback right at the first down sticks, and Flutie threw a strike out to him. You got to throw the ball a long way. People have questioned Doug's arm strength, but he showed no signs of weakness on that play.
That's the first catch of the night for Brian Wiggins. You played with his brother Steve back in 1989 with Saskatchewan.
Yeah, he was, and he's right now he's an engineer for NASA down in Houston.
Wiggins again. Inside the 10-yard line, Calgary will be first and goal.
We spoke about Apollo earlier, and he has a lot to do with the space shuttle missions. And, you know, his brother was last year's Western nominee for Rookie of the Year in the CFL, losing out to Michael O'Shea, another fine rookie linebacker out of Hamilton last season.
First and goal, Calgary. 10:25 remaining in the game. 3 receivers wide left. A handoff to Tony Stewart, and he fights his way to the 5.
Running that inside counter right there. Tony Stewart has been very active tonight. They're very pleased with him. He, like Marvin Pope, came in the training camp not in the best of condition, had a nice talk with Coach Wally Buono, decided that he really wanted to get into shape and play football, and he's been very productive for Calgary thus far early in the season. Looking like Darth Vader rolling up to the line.
Operating from the shotgun, Flutie on second and goal. Looks to the end zone. Touchdown, Alan Pitts.
Don, would it be safe to say that Allen is back?
Allen is back. He had surgery in October, knee surgery, after suffering the injury in a practice in August. And Wally Buono was delighted to have Pitts back. Perhaps not as much as quarterback Doug Flutie, because Pitts is an imposing target to throw to.
Well, he got him isolated out on Petrie in that right flat, working from that inside slot position, and Pitts has been so accurate with his cuts tonight, and Petrie was just not able to stay with him, and Flutie had the ball right on the money, led him perfectly. Allen came up with the big reception.
6'4", 200 pounds.
Hey, Mom, little Mom, thanks for the prayers.
Alan Pitts.
I appreciate it.
With his first touchdown of the ball game.
See you.
Very happy young man to be back in the CFL this year. 100% recovered from his knee surgery. Wally Buono, you see, congratulating him after the touchdown, his first touchdown reception of the '94 season. A lot of concern on the Baltimore bench for quarterback Tracy Ham. He has the shoe and the tape off of the right ankle right now, and the team doctor is examining that very closely.
And one would have to assume that with the shoe already off, that Tracy Ham is finished for the night. Mark McLaughlin with the point after, trying to double the score with 9:17 remaining. And it is 32-16, Calgary leading Baltimore. We'll be back with the Calgary kickoff after this.
It's Calgary over Baltimore, 32-16 in the fourth quarter of this ball game. And on the Calgary bench, the concern continues over the condition of quarterback Tracy Ham. They were loath to take off his shoe and remove the tape, but they finally did that. And Baltimore is very loath to give out information on injured players, but you know, in all my years of hanging around these benches, I think I've pretty much acquired a medical degree, and so in my considered medical opinion, Tracy Ham is not going to be back tonight. He can barely walk on that right ankle. looks as though he'll take some time to heal, and John Congemi will carry the ball now for the Baltimore CFLers. They desperately wanted Tracy Ham back in the game, convinced that was their best chance to come back and beat the Calgary Stampeders, but Tracy Ham almost certainly will not play again this evening. Don?
Yes, he's having difficulty putting weight on his right foot, so that means John Congemi will be coming into the ball game. Congemi, an experienced CFL quarterback from his time with the Toronto Argonauts.
But one of the key things, Don, they lose that mobility that a Tracy Ham brings to an offense. And so you'll see these defensive linemen from Calgary teeing off because John Congemi is very easy to find in the pocket.
Mike Pringle on the kickoff return to the 36-yard line, where Baltimore will scrimmage 1st and 10 with 9:04 remaining in the football game.
From the 36-yard line, 1st and 10.
Well, John Congemi, this is going to be his first action in the past couple of years in the CFL. Last year, he set out. He decided that he didn't want to play. He went back home to Florida, set out the season. But when the call came from Baltimore back in the wintertime and asked him if he wanted to play football, he saw this as a great opportunity to come in with a new organization. And now he's going to get his first test under fire of the '94 season.
He had 5 years in Toronto, spent the 1991 season in Ottawa. John Congemi for Peter Tuipulotu for a gain of 8.
Nice way to come out and start your first play. A safe completion to your fullback, circling out of the backfield. Alondra Johnson on the tackle, but that's a very safe play for John Congemi. Staying within what Calgary is going to give him and not force anything.
Many people were speculating that the heat and humidity might impact more on Calgary than on Baltimore, but if your offense can stay on the field, you can tire out a defensive unit.
And Calgary has done a good job when they've had possession of the ball tonight of moving the ball down the field, and they came up with the big defensive play right there on that run, stopping Mike Pringle short of the first down.
Well, youngsters sporting hats and T-shirts bearing the Baltimore logo and posters that were given away. Saw one gentleman earlier wearing a T-shirt that said, "A horse with no name is just as sweet as long as it plays football on 33rd Street."
Yes, Memorial Stadium, Baltimore. And they're going to go for it here on 3rd and 1. They need a first down.
Zezakovic made the tackle earlier to prevent Pringle from getting a first down. All sorts of movement and flags at the line of scrimmage prior to the ball being snapped. And it could be that O'Neill Glenn came out of his stance.
Procedure on the offense, number 61. 3rd down repeated.
The right guard with his second illegal procedure. If you recall earlier in the game when they had the ball down at the goal line, O'Neill Glenn, the right guard, moved prematurely and took them where they had a 1st and goal back, well, a 2nd and goal back to a 2nd and 6. And right there he cost them on a 3rd down and short situation, and now they have to punt.
7:25 remaining here at Memorial Stadium. Pressure up the middle, but a great kick by Miller. Chasing Coleman all the way back to the 20. And Coleman is going to be brought down at the 22 by Tracy Gravely. A 50-yard kick, and the return was limited to 3.
At Memorial Stadium in Baltimore on a glorious evening. 7:10 left in the 4th quarter of this game. Calgary in control of Baltimore, leading 30-16. And coming up, as soon as we've completed proceedings here, we'll send you to Las Vegas, where at the Sam Boyd Stadium, the Las Vegas Posse play their home opener against Ray Yawk's Saskatchewan Roughriders to complete our doubleheader on the CFL on CBC. Don?
And here at Memorial Stadium, the Baltimore entry in the CFL, a team without a nickname, desperately needs the football, but the Calgary Stampeders and Doug Flutie have it right now, 1st and 10 at the 23.
Well, right here, they need to come up with a big stop, Don. They've played some stern defense tonight, but this is their toughest test right here late in the game when you're a little tired. Someone has to come up with a big play.
Sapunjas over the middle for a gain of maybe 7 yards.
Brought down by Linus Burks.
Pressbury and Bird were again in on the stop.
Doug Davies right in the middle there against Robert Pressbury. getting some good blocking in there along with Rocco Romano, giving Doug Flutie time to get the ball off the Sapunjas downfield.
They rule it a 6-yard gain. It will be 2nd and 4. Well, make it 2nd and 3.
That's okay. Stewart low.
There's the toss to Stewart. Can he turn the corner? Yes, and he stays in bounds. Loses the football, but not until he got up to the 52-yard line.
Number 21, Tony Stewart.
Stewart and Flutie running the veer option. That's something that Doug Flutie brings to a game with his mobility and speed. You'll see him taking the snap here from Doug Davies at center, coming down, reading the defensive end, pitching the ball out to Stewart. He gets around King, turns it up the corner. He fumbles the ball out of bounds, but he was the last player to touch it, and Calgary gets the nice gain out to the 52.5-yard line.
6:02 the time remaining. Flutie now operating from the shotgun. Over the middle for Sapunjas again. And he'll have another first down as he takes it to the 35-yard line.
Right now, Doug Flutie is just having his way with this Baltimore defense. Sapunjas working that inside slot, comes underneath, sets down, little 4-yard simple pass, knows how to run in the open field. A former tailback at Western Ontario picks up the first down after the reception.
Flutie has gone to Sapunjas 6 times for 89 yards. Now he's going to go deep, and it's intercepted, picked off by Carl Anthony. Well, some fans who may have watched our telecast out of Toronto last week might be wondering who is wearing number 3 for Baltimore. He wore 13 last week. Number 3 is the 3rd number he has worn this year with Baltimore. Well, Don Matthews won't care what number Carl Anthony wears as long as he makes plays, as he just did on this pass intended for Pee Wee Smith.
Former teammates in Calgary, Weston All-Star last year. Carl Anthony, great inside position, able to make that break back inside, and he had that inside position forcing Pee Wee to the sideline, and Doug Flutie hung it out there, and he recovered and came up with the big break for Baltimore. His second interception in his many games thus far in the '94 season of the CFL.
He started the year wearing 18, switched to 13, and now wears number 3.
Well, I guess he's trying to trick quarterbacks so that they don't know who's out there. And he's been very successful at it thus far. In 2 games, changing his number twice in the 2 games. He has 2 interceptions, and Baltimore has a break, an opportunity to try to stay off Calgary from putting more points on the scoreboard.
5:14 remaining, 1st and 10, Baltimore from the 11-yard line. Britton was the man Kangemi was looking for. Britton had to come back to the football. It will be 2nd and 10.
Calgary right now is not going to give John Kangemi anything deep. We look at the Baltimore Colts band as they're down in the end zone, and they put on a wonderful performance here tonight. They opened the game. They put on a great halftime festivity show, and they've been together for 11 years, even without a football team. The Baltimore Colts band has been loyal to Baltimore.
Now trying to generate support for the Baltimore team, not the Colts. And John Kangemi is down back at the 2-yard line. Stu Laird with the initial pressure, and then Will Johnson finished the job.
The fireman, Stu Laird, had to work a overnight shift prior to the team's flight into Baltimore. You see Johnson here working on foot, the right offensive tackle, and coming in cleaning up where Stu Laird had knocked Kangemi off balance and knocked him down to the turf. The big play once again by this Calgary defense. They've been pressured all night, but they haven't broke.
Stu Laird, the oldest player on the roster of the Stampeders, with a big play down on the goal line, and now Josh Miller is forced to punt out of the end zone. Another good kick. Pee Wee Smith mishandles the ball, and it's still loose.
Baltimore
recovered by Baltimore. Scott Miller came up with it finally. They ruled it dead at the midfield stripe.
Well, Pee Wee never had sight of that ball. I believe he lost it in the lights, Don, coming out of the end zone, and it bounced off his face. And Baltimore being alert, you'll see Pee Wee right here trying to get under the football, and it bounced right off his face. And as he goes for it, he slides over the football, and it comes out of the back. Baltimore right there. Miller, the long snapper, hustling downfield, picking up the ball, recovering it for Baltimore. They're having a conference right now in midfield, but if they saw that right, it's Baltimore's football. Oh! Very tough break for Baltimore right there. Pee Wee Smith never had possession of the football. Even when he went to the ground, he never had possession. The ball squirted out before contact was ever made with him, and Baltimore might have gotten robbed on that one. We see Pee Wee once again. The ball's off his face mask. He chases the football, and watch as he goes down. The ball slides right out between his legs. He never has possession. Miller, alert, dives over Pee Wee and picks up the football.
4:02 remaining. Calgary from midfield. Flutie dumps it off for Sapunjas, and Sapunjas will be close to another first down.
Sapunjas has just been running freely through this Baltimore secondary. Got to be a little demoralizing after you think you get a big play and then all of a sudden you lose it on a possession call by the official. But right here working it out in the flat, and Sapunjas picks up another 8 to 9 yards.
It's a 9-yard gain. It will be 2nd and 1 Calgary with 3:30 remaining in the football game. Calgary leading 32-16. Baltimore with more yards, but the important statistic is the number on the scoreboard that has Calgary in front by 16. Flutie will get a first down as he crosses the 45 of Baltimore. The Stampeders will return home tomorrow and get ready for Winnipeg next Saturday. Flutie following the block of Jamie Crysdale to get the first down. Yesterday, Wally Buono and Doug Flutie were the advance guard for the Calgary Stampeders. The team spent the day flying here, and it took them 11 hours to travel from Calgary to Baltimore.
Proving to be a great CFL ambassador, has his team 1-0, but so are the Saskatchewan Roughriders 1-0 after week 1 of the CFL. We've just got on there is Tamrick Vanover, the marquee player for the Las Vegas Posse. Players on the field obviously going through their pregame routine. And I was going to say, Don, we have just got word now from our head office in Toronto that Chris, Dan, and Mark must wear their blazers tonight despite the 140-degree temperatures there, or they shall be fired. So I hope they're hearing this.
Great ambassador, Scott.
Well, it's hot and humid in Baltimore, but not nearly as warm as it is in the desert. Good fake by Flutie. There's Sapunjas again. Charles Anthony was all over him, and he couldn't go anywhere after making the catch.
Great open field tackle by Charles Anthony, rolling over from his halfback position. Sapunjas has been running freely through this Baltimore secondary, and that time Anthony made him pay after the reception of only 2 yards.
It's a gain of just 1 yard for Sapunjas. He now has 8 catches for 99 yards. Flutie from the shotgun. Alan Pitts has it down at the 25-yard line. Another 19 to the yardage total of Alan Pitts.
Irv Smith on the coverage, the left cornerback, just not able to stay pace with Alan Pitts, who went up high for that pass from quarterback Doug Flutie and bring in that reception to get him down to the 25-yard line. You see Flutie going out in the flat. Pressbury could not get to him. Pitts goes high, catches the ball at his highest point. Irv Smith, only 5'10", could not stay with the 6'3" Alan Pitts.
Covington did a pretty good job cutting the feet out from under Pressbury, preventing him from getting to quarterback Doug Flutie. Now this is Tony Stewart off tackle, and Stewart has another first down inside the 15. Tackled by Michael Brooks. 1:48 remaining. Wally Buono yesterday exuded confidence. He felt his team would play well against Baltimore. He said, forget the heat and humidity. He said, we're in excellent condition. I have no concerns about how my team will perform physically.
Well, they've proven that tonight. That time on that last inside trap play with Tony Stewart running the ball and getting excellent block from his offensive lineman, getting down inside the 15-yard line.
Penalty flag, and Flutie is going to try and run. And he is down by Pressbury at the 13-yard line, but there was a penalty flag prior to Flutie trying to take off.
Well, right now, Calgary seems to have this game in hand at 32-16 with 1:21 to go, and Doug Flutie is, as you saw in that last
offside
play,
on the defense number 9.
staying inbounds not wanting the clock to stop to keep the clock running. And we get the offsides call on Charles Anthony. As you see, Alan Pitts working down, and Anthony had got too close to the line of scrimmage trying to get that jam on Alan Pitts. You see Pitts has the separation. Anthony bumping him all over the field, but he was offsides at the line of scrimmage.
That takes the ball to the 9. It will be 1st and 5 for Calgary.
First and 5.
Well, stranger things have happened. Teams have erased a 16-point deficit in the final minute and a half of a football game, but I think Calgary in control right now is, even though Stewart is stopped by Bayless, is pretty much going to put this one out of reach and head home with a record of 1-1. And Baltimore, with Gerald Bayless making that tackle, will remain at home awaiting Shreveport next week at 1-1. And Wally Buono takes his team home to face the Winnipeg Blue Bombers next Saturday.
Well, Calgary really needed this victory tonight. I mean, they could not afford to go 0-2 in facing the Bombers next week after they've just come off a 55-point offensive bombing of Edmonton.
Flutie for Stewart, and Stewart is stopped at the 10-yard line. Ernest Fields, the middle linebacker, came over to make the tackle. And it's time for Mark McLaughlin to come in and pretty much put this one away with 56 seconds remaining.
I think it'd be better said if he was putting icing on the cake, because it's been put away for some time. Doug Flutie with his running ability this evening. Alan Pitts coming back in stride from his form from 92, even though his season was cut short in 93, and he was well on pace to break the record that he had already established as far as receptions in a season.
McLaughlin's first field goal was 25 yards in length. This will be a 17-yard attempt, and it too is good. 35-16, the Stampeders lead Baltimore. McLaughlin, as I mentioned earlier, 5 consecutive seasons with better than 200 points, and he'd like to make it 6 in a row this year with the Calgary Stampeders. Of course, if Doug Flutie continues to throw for touchdowns and run for touchdowns, he won't get as many field goal tries as he has had in the past.
Well, you know, they've had a very balanced offensive attack tonight, Don. They were able to run the ball, which Coach Buono wanted to do with Tony Stewart, and he was able to get around the corner a couple times. Doug Flutie, when he had to run, he was able to pick up big gains to keep drives alive and get the ball, disperse the ball to his receivers, and they all came up with big catches.
Njemi continuing at quarterback following the injury to Tracy Ham. Hanley is caught right at the line of scrimmage.
A very, very conservative play call that time by John Njemi, trying to run a draw to Sheldon Canley and being stopped right at the line of scrimmage. Coach Don Matthews not having this home opener turn out the way that he expected for it to. He had a lot of praise for his club, and you know he's going to come back and battle on many more occasions.
Britton was the man Njemi was looking for. It's intercepted by Kraft. Kraft is a convoy to the end zone, but he's forced out of bounds by Chris Armstrong. A 43-yard interception return by Doug Kraft. And Wally Buono, if he wasn't relaxed earlier, can now, I think, head for the locker room. He can forget about the 5.
Well, an ill-advised pass by John Njemi. He threw right into coverage. They had rolled up the secondary zone coverage on the wide side of the field, and he just threw right out there. You got 3 defensive backs sitting over there, and Kraft was the recipient of that pass from Njemi. He had the convoy up the right sideline before being driven out at the 11-yard line by Armstrong. But now Doug Flutie can put the salt on this one and just pack it away.
.27 seconds remaining. Flutie rolls, dumps it off to Blair Zur. He's stopped at the 5.
Complete to number 36, Blair Zur.
Blair Zur, that's its first reception tonight. The fullback, Andy McVay, retired prior to the start of the season this year, and the job was inherited by Blair Zur, who has done a fine job in filling in, blocking for Tony Stewart and Doug Flutie, and that time he gets his first reception of the game tonight.
Just under 40,000 fans watching the first ever CFL game in Baltimore. Not the outcome many had anticipated after Baltimore won 2 preseason games and the season opener 28-20 last week over Toronto. Here's the toss to Stewart. Touchdown.
As there's no time left on the clock, we got an extra point coming. Tony Stewart and Doug Flutie once again with the speed option coming out to the left. You get the commitment by the defensive end. Doug Flutie with the pitch to Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart running for the pylon at the corner of the end zone and takes it in. Right here you get Stewart and Flutie coming down the line. Flutie with the pitch as he got the linebacker a good one to commit. And Stewart just tiptoes right in the corner in front of Smith on the score for the 41st point of the ball game.
And Mark McLaughlin will add the final point of the football game for a final score of Calgary 42 and Baltimore 16. So the Calgary Stampeders, after losing their season opener 22-21 to Saskatchewan, even their record at 1-1, beating Baltimore 42-16. And now Calgary will return home to face the Winnipeg Blue Bombers next Saturday, and we'll have the game for you on CBC television. Baltimore now at 1-1, and they are at home next week to Shreveport. Wally Buono obviously is standing by with Scott.
That he is. Don, the head coach of the Calgary Stampeders, has led his team to its first win of the season. Does this one fix all that was wrong in Saskatchewan last week?
Well, I don't want to say that this fixes everything. This helps us get our confidence back. And, you know, football is a game of attitude and confidence, and that's one thing I think that this game really helped us with.
Doug Flutie, I thought, was more mobile tonight than we've seen him in quite a while. Was that according to the game plan?
Well, we wanted Doug to be active, and again, they got a good defensive front, and one way to tire him out is for Doug to be active. So he did exactly like the game plan called for.
42-16. I don't think it was as bad as all that for Baltimore.
No, again, you know how football is. You get some big plays one way or the other. I thought our defense did a tremendous job of shutting them down, and I think that was the big difference. It's a hot, humid night, and when the defense stays on the field, as Baltimore's did, obviously it's going to be tough.
Wally, this is a gorgeous stadium, large crowd on hand here tonight, and I'm wondering if you had difficulty getting some of your players to focus on the task at hand heading into this evening's game.
No, not at all. Like I say, they had an awful long trip yesterday. They were up at 6 in the morning, didn't get here till 8 at night. We practiced. These guys came to play, and I think they showed tonight.
Yeah, was that the biggest victory of all, overcoming an 11-hour ordeal getting here yesterday?
Well, again, I know a lot of the players were tired. Like I say, it was a 2-hour bus ride from Washington to here. But again, these guys are pros. They understand what football's all about. They lined up and played.
What are your initial impressions of the CFL in Baltimore?
Oh, I think it was tremendous. I thought you just being here for 2 days. I got here a little bit earlier. The media was tremendously impressed with what's going on. They were very much behind this team. When you walk around the city, you see a lot of, I can't say coats, but I will, stuff around. And
Wally, you're going to be sued.
Well, it's okay. I've been sued before, but it's no big deal.
How do those cases work out?
I don't know. Before I start, I'd just like to say hello to my family, my wife, and all my kids. I know they're watching, and they're very happy for us.
All right, Wally, thanks for your time. Congratulations on the win. Enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Don, back to you and James.
Yes, and now we look forward to seeing Calgary and Winnipeg next Saturday night at McMahon Stadium, based on what Winnipeg did to Edmonton on Thursday night and the performance of the Stampeders here tonight. That should be a great football game.
Looking for an excellent football game. You're going to have Matt Dunnigan, who came off that 713-yard performance against Doug Flutie, who had a masterful game tonight, moving up and down the field, taking opportunities against Baltimore's defense when the opportunity was given, dispersing the ball to his receivers. And I think that the CFL is alive again, once again here in 94. We got the fireworks going off here at the end of the game here in Baltimore. And the fans have to be somewhat disappointed but somewhat pleased because they saw an excellent play, a well-played football game tonight here in Baltimore. And this team is going to win more games than what it loses this year in 94.
Well, these fireworks don't celebrate a victory, but they do introduce CFL football to
25-39. How many yards? 281.
So it's Calgary.
Say it again.
42, Baltimore 16 here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore.